Good morning, Murder Church. What is going on? We are on a Labor Day weekend. Hopefully everyone's got an extended weekend like I do, off tomorrow. Excited about that, but we still got Murder Church right now. Sunday morning, 9 a.m. We are in this thing. Thank you so much for being here. Please hit the like. Share this out on the old X machine. I just now sent out a tweet. And let people know that you're hanging out with Publicly Buzzed this morning in the old church. Getting ready to come at you. Episode 32, Phil Spector Hollywood Murder Trial. We still got L.A. County Sheriff's Department Senior Criminalist Robert Kyle on the stand. And we're going to be coming at you. Thanks a lot. Let's rock.
Let's rock.
Let me clear my throat. What's up, everybody? What's going on? Still with this weird fucking camera. It's so bright, it's freaking me out. And I forgot about this light behind me. It doesn't look right on this camera. God, I don't like it at all. I'm going to get Dan over here either today or tomorrow. Probably tomorrow. Hopefully he's off also. We'll see what's going on. To see if you can figure out what's going on with my USB ports here, because, yeah, man, I like my other camera way better. As you can see it in my eyes, I'm still very sleepy. Welcome in here. At least Botrix decided to show up this morning. That's what I'm talking about. Love it. I see a lot of beautiful people in the chat as well early this morning, so ready to rock and roll. We had a great Feral Friday. Feral Friday was off the charts, per the usual. It was just me. We had a great time on YouTube and on Kick watching another one of those old cops videos, an old one called Caught in the Act, and it was quite entertaining. So yeah, anybody that has not seen that, go check it out, because those are going to be getting pulled off of Kick shortly. Yesterday I pulled off the night that we watched Cannibal the Musical. That will be going to Patreon exclusively soon. Yesterday I dropped an exclusive video to Patreon using my new camera, just kind of looking at some West Virginia mountains. That'll be dropping today, I believe, for members only also. I was also going through the footage from the last few weeks when I did that big trip, when I went to a couple of different spots. We went to this really old building that used to be an old coal company, where a bunch of the coal miners used to get paid, buy all their goods from. And then also went to this bar, restaurant type place deep into West Virginia as well. And also during all that, I pulled out another little video that I'm going to make, specifically because we rode through this town called Matoka, West Virginia, and it's if you blink you'll miss it. There's like 169 people in the entire town, and it's one strip of road basically too. And if you look at it from above over top of Google Maps, it's interesting. If you pull out, it's just mountains and green and trees and just this tiny little town in the middle. So we go through there, going over the mountain, getting to this building that we went to. So all of that's going to be getting dropped to Patreon as well. As it gets dropped to Patreon exclusively, it will then trickle through to the members, of course. Let me first of all get the Patreon up here so people know where to go in case they do want to join up. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming up very soon in there. And again, the stuff will be coming to members as well on YouTube, but there still may be a few things on Patreon that will never get released anywhere else publicly. So you're going to want to get on there. Let me see the beautiful people that are in here right now. We got Kaylin in here right now. My grandpa was a coal miner, Steve. Whoa, that's cool as hell. My grandpa was a coal miner too. Wow, he had some black lung and had a lot of difficulties later in life. That's amazing though. Kaylin, what's up? Debbie, what's going on? Donna Minor in the house here. Queen Olive, Debbie Blair, CH, Rachel C, Shelly, Pokemon coming through. Good to see you. Yeah, Cops was wild. Cops was crazy. Sheila Duffy coming through here saying what's up this morning. Good to see everybody. Drew Gambino said what's up. Todd said what's up. Love to see it. Krista in the house. Good morning. Good morning. New Patreon member Krista as well. Thank you so much for joining. Also, and member, she came in and just said, you know what? I'm in the Buzz Nation now, and that's what I like to see. I love it. And she's been greeted so kindly by all the wonderful folks here in the Buzz Nation. One of the best communities in all of true crime and all of YouTube, if I'm going to say it quite honestly. We're a small group, but we are a mighty group that has the kindest fucking people. And that's right, Kaylin coming through on time here tonight. Bassett Page, been coming through here these parts a long time now. Kelly Bobelli, yes, love to see it. Queen Olive, Wildside. Wildside was eating up the wheel on Friday night also. She is wanting a shirt, and the wheel is still in play. Of course, the usual ways you can get that is if you do donations here on YouTube, if you give out memberships, and anybody that may be new here, we get a lot of new folks. make sure your memberships are turned on in the chat, because we have some very kind folks that may be sending out memberships randomly. Also, the Cash App, the Venmo, the PayPal, the Buy Me a Coffee, all of that should be in the link tree. If not, I will have links for you guys to find elsewhere also. And don't forget, Cash App and all that comes directly to me. YouTube doesn't stick their grubby little paws in there. So that is a nice way. But any way you do it, any way you can get on that wheel, and a potential shirt coming out for some folks. We've got a lot of winners. Holly Berry won a shirt on Friday, which is freaking sweet. But yeah, we are about to do the damn thing, folks. And it looks just slightly, what's behind me? Yeah, hold on. Let me turn off this background here. I can see it like slightly poking out. It's annoying me. Let me also do this. There we go. There we go. I am also going to get up and turn that light off, because it doesn't work well on this camera. The Publicly Buzzed sound back there, it's just like too bright, and that's the lowest setting, which is silly. But yeah, we're ready to rock and roll again. Thank you all for being here this morning. Appreciate it. And I have to go make some coffee as well. I'm going to chill here with y'all for just a bit as we get rocking and rolling on top of the old Phil Spector murder trial. Let's make sure I got the sound correct. My new wrestling video. I'm going to let everybody know what's going on in my life. I love it. My new wrestling video from a second channel called Wrestle Plunge is doing amazing. I dropped it yesterday morning. It's been available for 25 hours. It dropped yesterday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time and did 6,000 views in 24 hours. And for me, that is a lot. And I was very proud of that. And I'm hoping I can keep getting that channel booming over there, guys. Let's rock and roll. Let's jump in here.
Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Robert, R-O-B-E-R-T, Kyle.
Kyle. I got it right this time. I think I messed it up last week. I think I had it right initially and then fucked it up. Robert Kyle
K-I-L.
continues on the stand. We got an hour 24 with him here.
Mr. Kyle, could you do a...
And just right on schedule, kind of showing everybody what to do anyway. Sheila Duffy, who's absolutely amazing, always coming through the chat. First one, I'm going to have to drop that just slightly. I was trying to show off all the ways you can donate, but Sheila Duffy right there, $1 holler coming through here, starting this son of a bitch off this morning. Beautifully done also, Sheila. And you are on this wheel for a potential free shirt. Anybody didn't see this on Friday night, I've got these sweet new stickers, which I'm going to get some more, and you can't even get these yet, guys. These are not... Oh, Jay's in here too. What's up, brother? What's happening, dude? Oh, man, thank you so much on the wrestling one, dude. I'm working my ass off on that shit. Okay, so these are not even available yet, okay? They will be available, but I've got a plan, too. I want to make them more enticing, and I want to get a little bit of a collection. But the first in a number of stickers that will be released from Publicly Buzzed, and a number of other things that we're going to be doing, are these sweet Me Outer Church stickers that I've gotten here. I've had bad luck in the past with getting stickers. I got some stickers locally from this person, and they weren't very good. They were actually I still got them. But I think I've had them for about a year. They're not the old. They are the Murder Church logo, and I still may end up throwing those out for folks. They're just kind of whatever. But this right here, again, Phil Tayo Toys. If you're not following him through Etsy, first of all, let me just go ahead and show you. Anytime I show this, I like to plug the guy because he made this and he is so kind to let me use it. Right here. If you're not on my man's Etsy page, it's etsy.com/shop/Tayo Toys. Get something custom from my dude. He's absolutely amazing. One of the kindest folks that I've been lucky enough to meet here in true crime. So yeah, I've got a lot of cool things planned out for these stickers, and yeah, baby, let's rock and roll. Let's get in here. I've done enough rambling this morning. Let's go.
It's a favor and tell us what you do
Judge
for a living.
Judge Diehard, Alan Jackson.
I'm employed as a
you know where we're at.
For the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Scientific Services Bureau.
What was your employment status back in February of 2003, Mr. Kyle?
I, at that time, was assigned newly to the firearms identification section where I was in training. I was also assigned to the after-hours physical evidence task personnel for the collection of evidence, which I continued to do even though I was in training for the firearms section.
How long had you been employed by the Sheriff's Department as of 2003, February of 2003?
Well, at that time, that would have been about 14 years.
You indicated that you were in training for the firearms section back in February of 2003. Explain to us, for those of us who are the uninitiated, what you mean by you were in training. I'm assuming you were in training for 14 years.
Yes.
Phil's a real
prior
one.
to my assignment to the firearms identification section, I worked for the physical evidence section of the laboratory, which involved a different type of analysis, a different type of work. In November 2002, I was assigned to the firearms section, where I started an approximately year-and-a-half training program for the collection of that type of evidence. However, I was still assigned to the after-hours crime scene investigation list for the collection of evidence at different locations.
As of February of 2003, well, let me ask you this foundationally. I'll back up one question. Is it normal for a criminalist to move from section to section over the years during the course and scope of their employment at the Sheriff's Crime Lab?
Yes, it is.
And what you just explained to the jurors
cool.
about your being in training at the firearms identification section, that was one of those circumstances where you had been assigned for several years to another section and then moving on to the firearms identification section.
Excuse me while I move some stuff around on the screen here.
Correct?
Yes.
But your after-hours assignment for crime scene investigations, that had been pretty consistent throughout your tenure at the crime lab?
Yes, in fact, beginning as early as 1990, I conducted field responses, and in 1994, my assignment to the trace evidence section. Through late 2003, I was still performing those functions as a physical evidence analyst, crime scene investigator.
So as of February of 2003, you had been doing some field investigative work and analysis for some 13 years or so?
Yes.
All right, so were you called out to 1700 Grandview Drive in Alhambra?
Yes, I was.
And going back to what we just talked about, I'm assuming that, as they say, the investigation that you did at 1700 Grandview, that wasn't your first rodeo, right?
That's correct.
All right. I guess you wouldn't say that. I would say that. All right.
Yes.
Who did you go with to 1700 Grandview?
Well, I was, my response was requested by another
still
criminalist
working
who
on
was
this.
at the location. His name was Steve Renteria, and I was called by him to assist him in the documentation,
Morning, Jim.
identification, collection, and preservation of evidence items at that
Morning,
location.
morning.
Who is
Get
Steve Renteria?
Get your coffees. Get your probably nothings. I'm getting settled in here in a second. I'm just going to go upstairs and make a coffee. It will take me just a moment. I'll do the French press style, which, again, takes just an extra moment there. Oh, fuck, you're right. I did this last week. Hold on. I'm glad you said that, Wild Side. And also, let me fix this. Everything's out of control today. Because of this fucking camera, dude. Jay, this is the old Logitech webcam. Like, my ports are messed up for my new camera. The cam link thing's fucked. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on. Wildside, you're absolutely right. And I'm pretty sure we were on like 42 minutes or something. You're right. We're deeper into this testimony than I had remembered. Thank you so much. Sorry about that. Yeah, we were definitely on Baden questioning.
Take the
Sorry about that.
sinks out and have them further
Sorry about
examined
that.
because they look like they hadn't
Happened
been used,
last,
correct?
I think last week.
No, there was no indication that there was anything of evidence value on or around the sinks of the bathrooms that I examined.
And in the second floor, you went through other portions, other bedrooms, correct?
Yes,
And you didn't find any blood in the other bedrooms, correct?
correct.
And you went through, would it be fair to say, a fairly detailed examination of the rooms so that you could see if you saw anything of evidentiary value, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Now, you started talking about downstairs, there was a bathroom,
French press
correct?
bean juice.
Yes.
And would that be
Morning,
the powder
Suzanne.
room that was off the side of the stairway?
Yes.
Okay. And you saw some items in there, correct?
Yes, there were several items in that area.
Sarah, welcome in here.
And was
Ooh, real quick, the shares coming out on the Twitter machine, on the X machine are coming through quick right now. Sheila Duffy, thank you so much. Absolutely amazing. I love to see it. Jay and Kaylin with shares. Thank you all so much. Love to see it. That's amazing. Thanks,
Anna
guys.
Clarkson still at the scene when you were there?
Yes.
Okay.
Meg P in
And
the
so
house
when
here,
you were there,
here this morning.
that was before the
tonight.
coroner had arrived and taken her away then?
Get in
Would
there
that be fair
going.
to say?
Yes, coroner's personnel arrived shortly after I did at the location.
Okay.
Love to
And
see it.
When did you say that
A little
you
loud.
left, sir?
Close to
Love to
10:30
see
in the
it.
evening.
Love to see
10:30
it.
in the evening on
Trying to get
February
my
3rd.
February.
trying to get my sound slightly louder than this. So, also scream a lot,
And
and I
you had
also get a
arrived
lot
at
of
6
comments to
o'clock,
stop
correct?
screaming.
Yes.
And your testimony is the coroner's personnel.
What?
had
I'm a
not
screamer.
yet, come into the house at that point, correct?
No, as I recall, they
City
had
kitty.
arrived shortly after I did. I saw Dr. Pena and some other personnel there.
Okay. And you also, when you looked for the white particles on the floor that we discussed as number 5, said you got down on your hands and knees,
That's right, yes.
and you looked all around that floor, correct?
Yes.
Because you were looking for small white particles. Were you not?
Right
Yes.
now.
Why was that?
Well, I had
Right now.
a few pieces of material there at that location where
Send
item
me
5
an
was. They were very
angel.
small. I was concerned that there might be additional items that maybe weren't on the top of the carpet. Perhaps if I got down closer to the floor, I might be able to locate any additional items of potential value.
Okay. Would it be fair to say there was a lot of stuff on the carpet that you determined was not of evidentiary value?
Yeah.
New name, factual lie. What's up? Get the hell in here. Welcome into the church.
Okay. Jennifer, could we have picture 2.081? Let's see if it's been previously marked before we give it a number.
Donna Bitter with a $2 highlight coming through here real quick saying, what is up? Thank you so much for that. Appreciate that. Donna, I'm going to get you on the list right here. I think that we're only 4 away now, if I'm not mistaken. I think we're already doing this thing pretty freaking quickly this morning. Where are we at? Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, 4 more until we get a spin. I'm going to check the apps here. Always checking the Cash App and all that as well, just in case anything's creeping through. Thank you so much, Donna. Wow. All right, I'm going to run up here. I'm going to get a coffee, and I will be watching through the phone and chatting. I'll be right back, guys.
Give a Z,
Thanks so much for being here.
Z,
Quadruple Z.
Quadruple Z?
Quadruple Z.
Be right back.
I don't believe we actually used it when we started to talk about it. I don't have anything. It's possible.
Could we blow up the area near the feet, Jennifer, please? Now, sir, do you see a lot of what appears to be, for lack of a technical term, white stuff all over the floor here?
Yes, I see what appears to be general debris on the floor.
Okay, and is it fair to say that not all general debris or white stuff is evidential, correct?
Yes.
Were you looking for any shattered pieces of acrylic?
I was looking for anything in that area that I might think would have some aid in the investigation.
Okay. And how big pieces were you looking for? Pin dot size, above pin dot size?
Well, some of the pieces that I had already collected were very small, maybe 1/8 of an inch or smaller. So very small items, including any additional tooth pieces or possibly any pieces of fingernail.
Okay, so you were looking for pieces of 1/8 of an inch or even smaller, correct?
Yes, just from my experience knowing that items of trace evidence can be very small.
Okay, and you actually examined this whole area around here, correct?
Yes.
And you examined the whole area around the stairwell, correct?
Yes.
And you got down on your hands and knees and you brushed into the rug, correct?
Yes, at least in the area around item number 5.
Okay, and you did not find anything else of evidential value, did you?
No.
Okay. Besides the 2 tooth pieces that you mentioned, did you find anything of evidential value on the stairwell?
No.
Now, when you were there, how many detectives were there?
I don't recall offhand. There were several.
Okay, and do you remember their names?
Well, I recall Detective Lilienfeld, Detective Katz. I also saw Detectives Bean and Kerfoot, Detective Danny Smith, and I can't recall specifically anybody else, but I believe there were additional personnel there.
And is it fair to say that if you had seen anything else in the upstairs bathroom with regard to where you were searching, you would have pointed out to the detectives, correct?
Yes.
And by the way, when the room that the white jacket was in, I think in your report you indicated that you saw a number of black sweatpants or other clothes in the area?
Yes, there were some clothes on the black recliner, some boots and socks in front of the recliner. It was quite a few clothing items in the room.
And a lot of them were on the recliner, some of them were on the floor, correct?
Yes, as well as many others, of course, hanging in the closet.
As well as many others in the closet. So they were kind of all over the room. Would it be fair to say?
Yes.
In plain view?
Yes, I would describe the majority of them in plain view, of course, other than the ones that were in the closet.
White jacket was pretty easy to see, correct?
Yes, just on the floor in front of the recliner.
Okay. Wasn't hidden in any way, was it?
No, it was pretty much just crumpled up on the floor.
Didn't look like it had been buried in the backyard, did it?
No.
Didn't look like it had been thrown in the trash, did it?
No.
Didn't look like it had been attempted to be burned, did it?
No.
Okay. The downstairs, when you went downstairs into the bathroom, you found a number of items in the bathroom, correct?
Yes.
You found a rag, correct?
Yes, technically I observed them. They were already marked as evidence, so I didn't locate them personally.
But you saw them, correct?
Yes.
All right, you saw a number of other things in the bathroom, right?
Yes.
Okay. And everything you saw was in plain view, correct?
Yes.
The rag in the bathroom was in plain view, correct?
Yes, I believe it was just laying on the floor.
Okay. And there were a couple of other items in the bathroom that you saw. Jennifer, if we could have... Now I know how Mr. Dixon and Mr. Brunon feel, Your Honor.
Okay.
I know they're here. One, 2, 4, 7. Maybe this could be marked A5 rather than quadruple?
No, it's quadruple A.
Quadruple?
Quadruple A.
Okay. Quadruple A.
No, quintuple A.
Quintuple A, okay.
Thank you.
All right. You saw the eyelashes sitting on the top of the toilet tank?
Yes.
Right. And they were in that condition with the glue attached to them, correct?
They look as they appear in the photograph, yes.
You didn't see any blood on those eyelashes, did you?
I did not notice any. I did not examine them closely.
Okay. Well, if you had seen them just from what's called a gross view, you would have pointed that out to the detectives, correct?
Yes.
Sure. All right. And then if we could have item 1248, please.
Is this another exhibit?
Yes, sir.
Quintuple B.
Okay. Was this wash rag sitting in the sink?
Yes.
It was in plain view, just like it was there?
Yes.
Hadn't attempted to be, from your gross observation of it, hidden, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Hadn't attempted, from your gross observation, to be filled with dirt as if it attempted to be buried, correct?
No, it appears as it does in the photograph.
Hadn't appeared to be burned, correct?
Correct.
All right. And from your gross observation of it, did you see any blood on it?
I did not examine it closely, but no gross observation of blood.
Was this brandy glass or brandy snifter here?
I do recall seeing it there, yes.
That was in plain view also, right?
Yes.
And it was still had a little bit, a few drops of whatever in it, correct, when you saw it?
I don't recall.
Okay. That really wasn't your purview, so you didn't document it, right?
That's right.
Okay. You also saw a white rag which appeared to be a diaper at the base of the toilet, correct?
Yes.
And you were able to see from a gross observation that had blood on it, right?
Yes.
Or what appeared to be blood,
Yes, it appeared to be wet and appeared to have blood on it.
right? But from my understanding, tell me if I'm wrong, until something's tested, you can't say actually it's blood, correct?
Well, yes, we do. Besides our observations, we may do a presumptive test for blood, and then it's examined further in the laboratory.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you did some presumptive tests at the scene, did you not?
I did.
And you did them upstairs in the dressing area room?
Yes, I tested several items of clothing on the recliner and on the floor in front of the recliner.
You tested the recliner also, did you not?
I don't believe I tested the recliner itself, just the
Okay.
clothing items on it.
Okay, and you tested it to see if there was any blood on the items that were strewn on the chair, correct?
Yes, I made observations. I looked at it visually with the aid of a flashlight, as well as any suspected stains were tested with the Kastelmeyer reagent, Kastlemayr.
Why don't you tell us what the Kastelmeyer reagent is, now that you mentioned it?
It's a presumptive test for blood. It's utilized by wetting a swab, like a Q-tip swab, with water. That swab is applied to a potential stain. I make observations as to the stain solubility. Does it go onto the swab? What does it look like? I then test it with a series of reagents that are make up the Kastelmeyer test, and I look for a color reaction indicating the presence of blood.
The Kastelmeyer test, as I understand it, is pretty strong, right? In other words, the dilution area of blood is pretty minor in terms. Let me start that again. How good is the Kastelmeyer test? Let's ask it generically.
It's a good test for blood. It's very sensitive, can detect even dilute concentrations of blood.
And when you say it can detect dilute concentrations of blood, it can do it from what, 1 to 1 parts per million?
Well, I believe it goes up to about 1 in 10,000 dilution, so very sensitive, I would describe it as.
Is that the Kastelmeyer test to stain that you used is 1 to 10,000? Or are there others that can be stronger?
No, that's just my recollection as to the sensitivity of that particular color reagent.
Okay, so in other words, it's pretty sensitive, right?
Yes.
And you didn't find anything on any other clothes, right?
No.
Did you collect any pants from the scene?
No.
Did you collect any socks from the scene?
No.
Was the gun that was near Miss Clarkson still at the scene when you were there?
No, that had been collected prior to my examination.
And so prior to 6 o'clock in the evening, that had been collected, is that true?
Yes.
Were you there, or did you ever see anybody handling a gun, the gun that was downstairs at Miss Clarkson's area while you were there?
No.
Did anyone tell you that there was a gun found down by Miss Clarkson's ankles?
Yes.
Who told you that?
I believe that was Mr. Renteria.
Okay. And did you ask Mr. Renteria any other questions as a result of learning that?
No, just I asked him where it was specifically, and that
Where,
was
I'm sorry, where what was? Just
where the firearm was recovered specifically.
okay. And what did he tell you?
He said near or under her left leg or foot area.
Okay. So that was important for you then to examine under the area of her feet, correct?
Examine the area around her feet, yes.
Yes, for trace evidence, right?
Yes.
And you did see a blood, by the way, was the chair already removed?
No, the victim was still in the chair and had not been moved at the time of my examination.
So everything was the same as far as you knew, except for the fact that the gun had been taken away, right?
Yes.
And you don't know whether the gun had been brought back for any purpose after 6 o'clock in the evening, correct?
Correct. I never saw that firearm.
Okay. And you were downstairs a number of times, correct?
Yes, through the course of the evening.
Okay. So going back to where you were downstairs in the bathroom, when you saw the white rag on the floor and you saw that it was not filled with dirt, right?
Correct, yes.
It did not look like it had been burned, correct?
Correct.
It was not in a trash can, correct?
No, just lying on the floor.
You learned from Mr. Renteria that the gun that was allegedly involved in this incident was laying in plain view, correct?
Yes.
And so when you went through the rest of the house and the foyer, the white particles that you collected in 5 were in plain view, correct?
Yes.
The white particle in number 10 was in plain view, correct?
Yes.
The white particle number 11 was in plain view, correct?
Yes.
You didn't find anything in the trash containers indicating that anybody had tried to throw anything out, correct?
No.
Okay. You didn't find anything in any of the sinks that would lead you to ask that the sinks or the traps be removed, correct?
No.
You did also examine the master bedroom, the bedding area, correct?
Yes.
And you were examining the bedding area to see if it looked like there had been any sex on the bed, correct?
Well, any obvious staining, be it possible blood or possible semen, so anything that stood out to me as being significant.
And when you looked at the bedding area, the bed looked like it had appeared made, right? Made was your term, right?
Yes, in other words, it didn't look messy or disheveled. It appeared to be made.
Okay. And did you collect any bed sheets?
I did not know.
Okay. And if you thought there was something of evidential value on them, you would have collected them, right?
Yes, it'd be something I would discuss with the detective.
Okay. You also did a small diagram, a tiny diagram of the scene, correct?
Yes, the foyer area as well as the TV room.
All right. And that's on the second page of your report?
Yes.
All right. Could we have page 1900 put up on the screen? This would be...
I don't know what it is.
I just want to look to his diagram if I can, Your Honor. That's kind of
Well,
hard
why
to
don't you take it
explain.
off the screen and just
Okay.
look at an exhibit?
All right, we'll make it. All right, it's fine. Did you do a diagram?
I did a small hand-drawn sketch of 2 areas that I examined.
In your hand-drawn sketch, did you put any areas such as the length or width of the foyer area?
No, I did not make any measurements myself.
Okay. Is that fair to say that you made no measurements of anything at the scene, correct?
That's right, I personally did not.
You did not measure where, for instance, in number 5, where the white particles were from the wall, did you?
No, that wasn't done by me.
Did you direct anybody to do it?
Woo, we back, baby.
Yes, I worked with Darnell Carter, who is a forensic identification specialist.
Okay. And did Darnell Carter do this in your presence?
Yes.
Okay. So you were aware of what some of the measurements were?
I was aware that they were being measured. I didn't record the measurements myself.
Okay. That's because you were not asked to do anything with regard to any measurements, correct?
Correct. We do different duties. Typically, measurement, scene diagramming is done by forensic identification specialists from our identification section.
But the measurements that you took, you thought were significant, right? Or directed to be taken?
Well, yes, any item
Yo,
that
Brooklyn, welcome in here.
is typically and routinely measured for its location.
Okay. And
Will Wars
so
are
any
activated.
measurements you took were
Locked
ones that you
in.
thought
I need to make a
were
graphic
important,
for
or any
Will
measurements
Wars.
that you directed
I think that'd be good.
your
Will War
associate to take,
graphics.
you thought would be important, right?
Yes.
Did you ask her to measure the risers on the stair?
No, mine was particularly for the items of evidence that were going to be taken, not for any structural dimensions.
Right. Did you ask her to measure where on the stair item 10 was taken from the location of the body to where it landed?
I asked that its location be documented, not specifically
Shelly, Pokemon coming through with the share on the X machine. I really appreciate that. Thank
from any
you.
point to any specific point.
Love to give
just
those
where it
shout-outs.
was in the room.
Did you ask that the
Take my jacket off here.
length from where the deceased was to where items 5 were found to be measured?
No, I didn't specifically direct any exact or specific measurement.
Would the same be true for item 11?
That's correct, that its position be documented, but not specifically from what reference points.
Okay. And did you also go through the downstairs?
Yes.
Okay. And when you went through the downstairs, by the way, did you go through the living room?
Stripping now, baby. Strip show.
Yes.
Live on
And
YouTube.
in the living room was items of evidence with evidence tags on them?
Yes, if it's the living room you're referring to, I believe there were some like drinking glasses.
Could we have... I'm not sure what number this is. 8A-D-O-O-8A, is that possible? Your Honor, you have this is
This would be quintuple C.
quintuple C, okay?
Wearing a different suit today. Space the fuck out per the usual. Phil Spector.
Bottle of...
Always got a live shot of Phil.
Plain view.
Ghoul Phil. Up
Yes,
up
I
top
do recall
there.
seeing that.
Okay. Didn't look like anyone
some
had
Jose
tried to
Cuervo?
throw that into the trash, right?
No.
The brandy snifter here, was that in plain view?
Yes.
He's like, I want to be worth $50 million and have a mansion that looks like it was decorated by my grandma. That is my dream in life.
Didn't look like anyone had tried to get rid of that, right?
No.
The Canada Dry bottle was in plain view.
Yes.
Didn't look like anyone had tried to get rid of that, correct?
No.
And so this was the condition that you saw the living room in when you went through it, correct?
Amy, get in here.
Did you
Cheney,
go
get in
to the
here.
bar area of the
Church is
house?
underway, baby.
Yes.
I think we're one name away, maybe,
You have item 2.146.
from a wheel spin.
Triple D.
11. One name away from the first wheel spin here this morning. Make sure I'm not missing nothing in the old apps.
And this is the bar area downstairs off the living room a little bit?
One name away.
Okay. And did you see anything in there for you that was significant, such as any evidence that looked like it was trying to be destroyed?
No.
Okay. Now, could we blow this up here, please?
There we go. We got a first timer
See
walking
that,
through here.
Jose?
What is going on, Nay? Welcome in here. We got a lot of con folks in the chat. I think that they're going to welcome you in. I love it so much. Thank you so much for being here. We have a good time. Hope
For
you
a little
enjoy it.
tequila bottle?
Yes.
Have as good of a
Is that
time as you can talking about
In that
murder.
location
How about that?
filled that it was in?
I don't recall that item specifically.
A lot of crying and
You didn't make any
laughing
notation
and
about that item, did you?
No.
shit talking.
Did you note whether or not there was any rings where dust was, where bottles had been removed on the bar?
No, I did not examine that area at all.
There we go.
You just looked
Pokemon.
at it, correct?
Finishing that thing out, baby. $4.99. Thank you so much,
General
Pokemon.
Observation and then moved on.
You were the last name on the
Nothing
wheel.
that you saw was significant, indicating there was any blood that you could see, right?
That's correct,
It
right?
didn't look like anyone had tried to destroy evidence in there, correct?
No,
Okay, and therefore you didn't document anything further in that room, right?
correct.
Okay. Now, I think we've had several pictures marked, I think it's previously FFF, it's 2.222. FFFF, I'm sorry. Okay. You see the coroner people here?
Yes.
Were you here, or did you hear when any of this was going on?
Well, actually, for the majority of the time that the personnel were around the victim, I was in another part of their residence.
Didn't you just tell me earlier that you weren't there when the coroner people came?
No, I believe I testified that they arrived shortly after I had arrived.
They arrived shortly after you arrived, and you came at 6, okay?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. Did you ever observe this scene here?
Did I observe specifically at that moment in
Yes,
time?
at that moment
That's
in
what I'm
time.
talking
I
about.
don't recall, no.
Did you ever see the coroner's people at the scene? In other words, did you come down the stairs and look at any people from the coroner's office at the scene? At any time?
No, I had pretty much left that to Mr. Renteria.
Shows me, Dixie.
So your answer is that you were upstairs the whole time they were downstairs, right?
Well, that I do not recall being there when the bulk of the examination of the body was occurring.
Okay. So when was items 5 collected?
Well, I don't recall specifically in time. It would have been collected if it would have been in the way for these personnel, but I don't recall if it was before or after this time.
And there's nothing in this picture that can tell you?
Not that I can see, no.
Okay. Let's go to 1.108. I think it's previously marked HHHH. Okay. Item 11 is still there?
I see the placard. I don't know that the item is still present.
Okay. So again, is there anything from your notes when you can tell what the timing was of when you collected items 5?
No, I didn't record the times of collection.
And that would be the same then with items 10 or
Seems
11, correct?
like something you would do.
Correct, for any of the items that I...
So it could be that the placard is here and the material's not, or is the material there?
That's correct. I don't know at that
Oh
time.
my God,
So you can blow it
Sheila.
up. Does that help you any?
Oh, I totally forgot the bells this morning. Let me do that real quick. Ladies and gentlemen, anybody new in here? Well, I know we've got a few new folks in here. Murder Church starts officially with the bells, okay? Every once in a while, I do forget them, and somebody was nice enough in the chat. Sheila Duffy, thank you so much. Let me get these bells out of the way. My God. I have sinned. Lord, forgive me. For the bells were forgotten. On September 1st, 2024, the year of our Lord. Thank you so much for reminding me. Tiff Knox, get in here.
It appears that that's the item next to the placard on the left side.
Okay, so it'd be fair to say then
God.
that your collection came after the coroner's
That ain't good. I hope you
report.
feel better.
At
Jeez.
least for that item, yes.
Okay, for item 5, did it come after the coroner's people were there?
I don't recall.
Okay. Now, did you ever go back to Alhambra after you left it on that evening?
No, I never returned to location.
All right. When you came and you were on your hands and knees looking around the areas of the body, let me just ask you, and this has been previously marked D, 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 D,
Quadruple D.
4 Ds.
That was a big set of knockers, I'll tell you right now. See those on Friday night.
Did you see anything on Miss Clarkson's shoe at the scene resembling this little white piece?
I don't recall seeing that item.
It's not documented in your notes, is it?
No, I don't recall if I saw that or not.
Okay. Can we mark scan number 2? That's scan number 2.
You want this marked next in order?
Yes, please. I don't think it's been previously marked as a
Trial exhibit.
defense exhibit, as a trial exhibit.
Quintuply. E. 5 E's.
Now, see all this white, again, debris around here? You see that?
Yes, I see what appears to be a large blood stain and some debris on the floor.
Did you collect any of this?
No.
And the reason
Disgusting.
for it is you did not think it was evidential value, correct?
No.
Because there was a lot of white debris that was around, and a lot of times it's not of evidential value, correct?
Correct. I didn't see anything immediately around the deceased that I felt was anything that I needed to collect.
Right. Well, you're trained to collect
Brooklyn, thank you
items,
for that
right? You're
share.
trained to see items
Appreciate
and
that
look
on
at
the old
evidential
X
value in the
machine.
300 or 400 scenes. You said
Spreading
you
the
were
word. Spreading the gospel. That's what I like to see.
I am way too fast. You're trained to look for items of evidential value, right?
Yes, as appropriate.
Okay.
right, now let's get a
And,
proper-
and you've done that.
A proper step 2 inside of us. And then we'll fill up this wheel with our first
Like you
names
said,
of
300 to
the
400 times?
morning.
Yes.
Okay. And again, had you seen anything in that specific area that you thought was important, you would have collected it, correct?
Certainly, yes.
Okay. Now, with regard to the people at
For real.
in
Could
the
definitely
foyer
afford
area
it.
when you arrived, is it your recollection you can't recall?
Well, when I arrived, I recall seeing several investigators in the north end of the foyer, and I recall coroner's personnel arriving sometime shortly after.
All right. Now, let me ask you this. Scene photo 003, Jennifer?
That's true too, Brooklyn. Always got a live shot of the ghoul, Bill Spector.
From this picture, do you recognize anybody in this picture?
I can't recognize, at least from where I'm sitting, any particular people.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach him just
You may.
to clear a copy?
Yes.
Yeah, name. Yeah, that was one of his attorneys. Was Linda Bodden.
You can hold on to that for a second, okay?
Are you ready for my answer?
Yes. I'm just waiting for you. I don't want to rush you.
Thank you. I recognize Detective Steve Katz, who in the photograph is to the left of the doorway, which is the south entrance where the
here?
foyer is.
Is that, am I pointing to the right person?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, real quick, I know we got some new folks in here. Anybody that's unfamiliar with the will, this guy right here, ask about the will. We have this physical will that I'm getting ready to actually add a bunch of names to. Again, you know, anybody that donates, as you can see, people have been coming through the chats, being absolutely amazing. People that come through and donate through the YouTubes, gifting out memberships through YouTubes, and also, as you can see up there, the Cash App, the Venmo, the PayPal, anything that comes through there, you get on this will. And once we collect 12 names, we spin this for a free T-shirt. Or for a Publicly Buzzed T-shirt. I guess free is not technically the right term because it's literally a donated will to get the shirt, but you know what I'm saying. You will get a shirt for the possibility of donating on this will. So we have a lot of cool merch. Anybody that's unfamiliar with our merch, I'll put that in the chat just so people can see. We have, I think, the coolest merch in true crime. I've been putting that over and saying that for quite some time. But yeah, I'm about to fill up another wheel right now, baby.
In the front is Dan Anderson, who's a criminalist for the LA County Coroner's Office.
Okay.
I also believe that's Detective Lilienfeld to his right, although I'm not certain. I see.
Oh, nice name.
Steve Renteria,
I've had a few people
who is,
do that.
In the doorway.
Hopefully it's not too annoying.
Yes.
That's the
I get
person
a little
who asked
crazy.
you to come to the scene?
That's correct.
Buzz Nation special.
And I don't know who the other
I
person
will
is.
admit, it's not for
Now,
everyone.
do you know from the time when you collected
But it's
evidence,
for us.
was it before this picture was taken or after? If you know.
Welcome in here.
I don't know.
Okay.
Love it.
And did you ask Mr. Renteria how many people had been in and out of the foyer area before you started to get down on your hands and knees and look for evidence?
No.
When you were in the foyer area, were you asked to collect any of the EMT pads?
No.
Were you asked to collect any of the gloves the detectives wore to check to see if there was blood on them?
Let me get these names on here.
No.
Okay. Besides the very specific things you told us about, collecting items 5, items 10, items 11, and item 19, the white jacket, did you collect any other item?
I did pick up for packaging item number 4, which is a knob to the deadbolt latch
Right.
In the foyer area. I also collected the false eyelashes on the toilet tank
Okay.
in the bathroom by the foyer.
Okay.
And I think that was it besides the jacket upstairs.
Was there any taser wire on the floor when you were on your hands and knees looking at the white objects?
No, that item had already been retrieved.
Okay. Were there any, not taser wire, but like a taser container on the floor?
No.
Okay. As a matter of fact, do you know what actually had been retrieved by the time you got there?
No, just as far as the firearm and its location, and that there were other items, but I didn't specifically get a list of those
Okay.
things.
Now, trace evidence can be very small, correct?
Yes.
And one of the principles of trace evidence is that if I go stomping through a scene, I can bring stuff with me, correct?
Yes, that's a
I can
possibility.
bring stuff on my shoes in, correct?
That's a possibility, yes.
All right, and if I used to go into a scene and I go stomping out of the scene, I can bring stuff out of the scene, correct?
Again, a possibility.
Right? And one of the things they teach you when you're learning about trace evidence is that it's highly movable, correct?
It can be, it depends on the item.
That's right. And sometimes you can't even see it, can you?
That's correct.
And the more people that you go have tramping into a scene without having protective covering, the more people tramping out of a scene with protective covering, the more likely it is that there could be some loss of evidence, correct?
Well, yes, in general, we
Got
got
it.
to limit
Ready
the
to
amount of
rock.
personnel if possible to eliminate
Ready to
that
rock,
possibility.
baby.
Do you know how many people had been in that scene before you got there at 6 o'clock at night on February 3rd?
Objection, that would call for hearsay or speculation.
Would you have any way of having personal knowledge?
No.
All right, sustain.
All right. Did you ever ask how many people had come into the foyer area before you got there at 6 o'clock?
No.
Okay. Did you ever ask what the condition is that if everyone that went into the foyer area wore gloves?
Did I ask
Did
that?
you ask?
No.
Did you ask if everyone into the foyer area wore booties?
No.
Did you ask if everyone into the foyer area wore hairnets?
No.
As a matter of fact, sir, when you look for trace evidence and when you examine it in a lab, and you've done that, correct?
Yes, for over 8 years.
For over 8 years, and as a matter of fact, one of the areas that you're certified in testifying before the courts is trace evidence, correct?
Yes, including hairs and fibers.
And hairs and fibers. And when you're looking at something in the lab, you usually do wear gloves, right?
Yes.
Hair nets, right?
No.
Face masks?
No.
Do you normally want to make sure there's no contamination?
Well, it depends on the item that I'm examining, but typically, I don't recall ever wearing a hair bouffant.
Did you do any microscopy analysis that I see on your?
Yes, I was a trained microscopist in polarized light microscopy. I also did some instruction.
And one of the things
shit,
that microscopy
Tiff.
was analyzed is
Look at
usually
that.
hair, correct?
Hairs and fibers, typically in that section.
And it's important that you don't accidentally.
Oh yeah, Tiff Knox. Starting out the new will. That's how you do that. Quick like through the Cash App. $5. Thank you so much, Tiff Knox. Appreciate that. Boom. Put you right here. Starting out the new will. Will we get a second will this morning? Only time will tell. But Tiff Knox just, paying it forward to make that happen. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Get your hair into an area, right?
Well, it would be consideration, yes.
Yes. So you try to take whatever precautions are necessary to make sure there's no contamination in a crime scene or out of a crime scene, if you think it's a crime scene, right?
Yes, we do make reasonable attempts for that.
And you would do that even in a death scene, correct? That you were investigating, right?
Yes.
Because at the time you were there, you didn't know whether this was a crime scene, did you?
No, only just the circumstances, what they knew at that time, and my request to assist them in the collection of evidence.
Okay. And that's all you were there to do, was assist in the collection of evidence.
Yes.
Okay. And you testified that the taser wire was not there. Let me ask you this. Did you ask anyone at the scene to vacuum the area of the red rug where the decedent was to see if any trace evidence could be picked up?
No, that's not appropriate.
Did you, my question to you is, did you ask?
No.
Okay. Now, you just told us that it's not appropriate, correct?
Yes.
Now, did you know, you already told us that you didn't know how many people had been in there, correct?
Correct.
So except for items such as the teeth or what appeared to be teeth, because you didn't know whether they were teeth, did you?
Did I know whether those items were teeth pieces? Right. Only that they appeared to be from my general observations.
But you had no way of confirming that under a microscope, right?
Right. I'm not an odontologist or a doctor to determine that.
Right. You didn't know whether there were any fingernail, correct?
Only that I didn't observe anything that appeared to be fingernail pieces.
Okay. But you didn't have any way of confirming that because you didn't put it under a microscope, right?
Well,
enough
coffee. General observations to know there was no
Should be
no
cool
pieces
enough
that I
now to
recognized.
get a drinky poo.
Okay, so there was no natural pieces of fingernail that you saw, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did you ever learn whether or not there was any natural piece of fingernail taken off Miss Clarkson's body at any time?
No.
Okay. And really, once you finished collecting the evidence, you were finished, right?
Yes.
And you never went back to the scene, right?
Correct.
You never were asked to write a report, formal report.
No, that was done by Mr. Renteria.
Okay. You weren't asked to write.
Yeah, real quick, we got Nay in here, new person hanging and banging, watching today's episode, and says they're going to be going back and watching some the rest of the stuff to catch up. But right here, Couch Juror coming through, and I think they meant to say Nay. One of the best episodes was mob boss attorney. He was fired. So early on, we have this one attorney for Phil Spector who represented was it Gotti? Was it John Gotti? A mob boss attorney, is what I started calling this guy. And he's only been up here one time, basically, and the judge's name is Larry Fiddler. We call him Judge Dowhard. Judge, if you get a good look at him, he looks just like Bruce Willis. He's like a skinnier Bruce Willis. It's crazy. I know that Bruce Willis has gotten skinny also, but yeah, he looks just like a twin even. Like, it's crazy. So we call him Judge Dowhard. And he's amazing. He's my favorite judge ever. I'm not even exaggerating there. He's awesome. He's so fair. He's a beautiful human being, I think. Truly. I'm not even just bullshitting here. And he gets into it with this mob attorney that we were calling, a mob boss attorney. Oh my God. It's wild. It's fiery. I actually made a few clips. It's been a long time now. This trial's been happening for quite some time here with the Buzz Nation, but wow, it was spicy as hell. They were going back and forth. Judge Dowhard was making it. Every time he would make his point, clearly, Cutler's his name. His last name's Cutler. He wasn't listening to shit. He wasn't listening to anything. He already had a rebuttal waiting that was ready to go without hearing anything that Larry Fiddler said. It was absolutely ridiculous. It's that would be worth going back and watching for sure.
Report with any opinions in it ever, right?
Correct.
Oh, nice. Factual lie. And like I said, another new name in here. Love to see it. Anybody coming through that's new, welcome the hell in here. I love that. Yeah, you'll find some good. There even beyond. Keep pausing here, but even beyond that, there's other spicy days that were just like, oh shit, like tons of spice in this trunk.
You didn't
But that might be the wildest with Cutler.
Would be needed to be picked up, right?
No.
And you said that you didn't inquire, you didn't ask for vacuuming, and you said it was inappropriate
was
to
feisty.
vacuum the carpet for...
Dude, he literally says he gets possessed. He's like, Judge, I'm sorry, I get possessed. Like, he's like clearly a showman, you know what I mean? Like, he's going through these motions. He should be in fucking Broadway. He should be in Hollywood, quite honestly. He's like, Judge, I'm sorry, I get possessed. And I wish I might have found that clip.
trace
Hold on.
evidence?
Yes.
Why?
Well, if a vacuum were utilized to collect
Like,
evidence,
take
items, you have the
it
potential
over.
for
Like,
getting
what
things
the
that
fuck are
not,
you saying, bro?
Contemporary to what we're investigating. In other words, things that are historic that may be down in the carpet that could inhibit my examination of the items that were on top or more likely related to the actual incident that we're investigating.
So is it fair to say that when you take evidence from a scene to examine, you do it based on the circumstances that you have, right?
Yes.
And therefore, not everything is relevant that's at a scene, right?
I don't understand the question.
Not everything that was white on the floor was relevant, right?
That's right.
Not everything that was white on the floor was evidence, right?
Correct.
And in fact, even some of the items you picked up in the bedroom and tested with your KM tested, turned out you didn't collect them, right?
Right.
Because you left them there after you tested them, right?
Correct.
Because they're not relevant, right?
Correct.
So a lot of times you can test something at a scene and it's not evidence, is it?
Correct. It may require a little further examination, and it may be determined that that item is not relevant, and we move on.
Ms. Kinnabarden, how much longer,
About 2 or 3 minutes, that's all I have. I'm trying to finish
how
it.
much redirect do you feel you have?
Judge, maybe some question.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. Now, did you ask any of the detectives about the gun that was collected?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Did you observe whether or not any catch cloths were used for other evidence that was collected while you were there that you may not have collected?
I don't know what you mean by catch.
Well, when
Trying
you're
to
at the
find
scene,
that.
sometimes when you pick up an item, don't you want to make sure if you're going to wrap it that you catch any trace evidence that may be on it?
Normally when I do that, it's in the laboratory setting, not at the
Okay,
crime scene.
that's fair. All right. Now, you do put things in paper bindles or bags, right?
Yes.
And you testified that you put the white jacket in a brown paper bag?
Yes.
And you use paper because paper keeps the evidence, or what you think is evidence, clean and utilizable for further testing, right?
Yes, and it doesn't trap moisture. I don't want, for instance, mold to grow or something like that. It allows air circulation.
Okay. And that's why paper is used, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, with regard to, did anyone ask you to check the lipstick that was found in her bra?
No.
Okay. Did anyone ask you to look at the evidence collected, the amount of people that have been in the scene to see whether or not there had been any contamination of the scene?
No.
Okay. And as you sit here today, is it your clear testimony that the items you collected were easily seen by you?
Yes, I believe so.
And could be easily seen by anyone who looked at the house?
Objection, that calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Did somebody point some of these items out to you?
Well, some of the items already had evidence placards on them, but they were what I would describe as obvious.
So some of the items that you considered evidence were clearly obvious, correct?
Yes.
And had not been hidden, correct?
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, redirect.
Your Honor, it's just one area, and I may have misunderstood you. You indicated on cross-examination that you did do some KM testing of some clothing upstairs, correct?
Yes.
And that KM testing turned out negative, correct?
For all items except for the jacket that was collected as item number 19, which I did detect blood on.
That was my question. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Recross.
Nothing needed,
Thank you. Subject to recall, you may step down. Thank you for being here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to go over a little scheduling. When we selected you, or when the
I
attorney
can't find
selected
that.
you,
Damn it.
we went through a schedule because one of the ways we got you was, of course, to guarantee you days off when you needed them, and we have some of those days off coming for both you and the attorneys. I know that I've been told
Found
that
the
several
nipple
of
ring
you,
part.
are going to be needing to take days off for graduating family members, which I understand, and that we'll certainly grant that. I would only ask that whenever possible, if we can do a half day if possible, let us know rather than take the whole day off. We're going to be dark tomorrow. Congratulations to Mr. Dixon, because his daughter is graduating the Kennedy School at Harvard, and he is going back, and we need both of the attorneys. We would have needed if we were going to be in session tomorrow, so we won't be here tomorrow. And I'm sure you will, and congratulations. And think of all the money you don't have to spend now.
I've never seen him happier.
Yeah, glad to have you in here, Factual.
Lunch on Mr.
Yeah, we're pretty
Dixon.
chill over here.
So if you'll make sure and let Wendy know, because I know that June and July are the worst months, and we're just going to be down a number of days that we can't do it any other way, because I want to accommodate you, as I said I would, and I intend to
Like
do
I
that.
said, though, right?
So,
Does he not look like Bruce Willis? Right in the face. Like,
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
hey, motherfucker.
just let us know, and with that in mind, we will be in recess until 9:30.
He's good, though. I really enjoy this judge. All right, where are we going next? Let's see how long we got here. It's all rosin, so I'm already going to be sick to my fucking stomach.
Present.
Let's see. 17 minutes. The judge and counsel discuss trial proceedings outside the presence of the jury. There is a lot of outside the presence of the jury during this one. This has been this is a very different trial. I have not seen any quite like this one, I don't believe. Phil Spector has like 10 attorneys, and I'm not even exaggerating. I may be missing some. Like, it's wild.
The defendant is absent pursuant to 977. Prosecution is present. What matters do you want to take up first?
Well, both sides, Your Honor, needed a moment with the court. We filed a couple motions, and in response to the court's directions from last Wednesday, the court asked us to file points and authorities with regarding the issues surrounding Sarah Kaplan and her refusal, at least up to this point, to testify. We've submitted those to the court for the court's consideration. We also have, pursuant to the court's instructions, prepared a proposed stipulation. I've handed that off to the other side, and we will continue to talk about that with defense counsel. And lastly, since we were last here, we have been apprised that a number of defense witnesses have been in the media talking about this case.
After this, we'll do a will spin. 17 minutes till the will
An
spin.
order, which is in our motion from April 30th of this year, where the court said, I'm ordering all parties to tell their witnesses not to discuss this case until the case is completed, and that if my order is violated, I will take the appropriate action. The case is to be tried in the courtroom, not in the media, especially not in that matter. Is there any question whatsoever? Mr. Jackson said none. Mr. Rosen, there's none. We'll pass it on. And Mr. Ford, thank you. We'll take care of it. As the court's seen in our motion, we believe, and some of this is information and belief, and some of it we have nailed down a little bit better than that Henry Lee has granted at least one interview to albeit Chinese daily news paper, and presented a press release. Jody Baby Doll Gibson is given two different interviews, one to a Geraldo show on radio and another to Marie Claire magazine, the latter being somewhat salacious. And Bill Pavlik, who's already testified with respect to the Henry Lee issue, and Sarah Kaplan and Stan White both testified at that hearing. We expected, and I think is at least likely or probable, that he might testify again if all that was presented before the jury. He granted an interview to Court TV just last Thursday about 9 a.m. where he had some rather negative things to say about prosecution witnesses Sarah Kaplan and Stan White, and one of the prosecutors.
That being you.
And that's what I heard. I was out of the state. It just, you know, I guess I just don't believe in coincidences, but it was just the day before when the court obviously recalls that Sarah Kaplan was here. We had all the discussions about whether or not she should testify or not. Stan White was here, ready to testify, and was ordered back. And the next day, Bill Pavlik, former defense investigator, hits the airwaves and trashes all of them. And he said from the stand when he testified before that he considered Brad.
A high-profile case like this, this is 2007, so it's even different than what we see today, where you can see like regular folks kind of become high-profile cases because of the way true crime has shaped the entertainment industry. Honestly, in a weird way, like it's its own sector and section within entertainment that it has now grown to people where regular folks want to look through affidavits and such. It's pretty freaking wild. But 2007, you got Phil Spector, and a famous guy, friends with John Lennon, the whole Beatles thing. We went over this tons of times on here. But something like this hits the news, especially again in 2007, right as the internet is really starting to get really ramped up and wild. I know the internet was around way previously beyond that. But at the same time, in 2007 is when I first started seeing like wild stuff. I think YouTube started in 2005. But people were probably talking, especially trying to get this as a part of like their news station. I'm sure Nancy Grace, she's been around for fucking ever. And I didn't follow true crime to that extent back in the day. I've always loved Unsolved Mysteries, Rescue 911, America's Most Wanted. I've always enjoyed stuff like that. So this has always been something that I've liked. But I've never just watched Nancy Grace. So I bet at this time, even in 2007, Nancy Grace was all over this.
Brad Brunon, a good friend. And
I can only imagine, actually.
Brad Brunon did that, but it's just a strange coincidence. I'm not sure what the appropriate action is when the court issued this order, but it seems to me that we agree with the court's order that this case should be tried in the courtroom and not in the media. And that's what's going on here. And
so you hear what's happening here? You hear in normal trials now.
It's happened quite a bit.
Oh, this is Karen Reed. This is Brian Koberger. This is Richard Allen. We know about really big trials now, and we know the ins and outs. And I'm not talking to like non-celebrity folks that basically become celebrities through true crime because their cases are so crazy or so wild or for some reason have caught the media attention. It's wild. It's so interesting. We live in way different times than even then. Wow, Shelley. I know I got a lot of OGs in here. I appreciate it. I've been guided by a lot of OGs in this community as well. I keep pausing right now. I apologize for that. But a lot of older folks that have been watching these trials forever rule, and they've been guiding me through these like absolute G's in the community is what I mean there. I don't mean any disrespect. Like, I love the fact that there's so many people that are like, man, I've talked to multiple people who even said they've started or cut their teeth on OJ, right? I remember the OJ trial. Of course, I was younger, but my mom was infatuated with the OJ trial. She freaking recorded that shit on VHS tape when it was on. Like, I don't know if she still has it, but at one point she had them. She probably never went back and rewatched them, right? But she's like, I have to keep this forever. This is a huge moment. Like,
things myself.
I love it.
I received the motion, I believe, Thursday or Friday. And,
oh, fuck. Here we go. Rosin, I'm going to fight somebody. Now we're ready to fight.
Which Mr. Dixon and Mr. Jackson
He's going to appear
appended as an exhibit in their motion. I will speak to a portion of it.
For the record, Mr. Spector is not present.
Right there, yeah.
I'm going to speak to a portion
right,
of it.
Shit. That one called everybody.
I'm going to speak to the portion regarding Ms. Gibson and Mr. Pavlik. As to Mr. Pavlik's not our witness. He's never been our witness. We've never listed him on our list. So in that regard, and I don't know what it is that Mr. Dixon is complaining about in terms of what Mr. Pavlik said or didn't say publicly.
She's just going to start patting him on the back here and needs to cough up a hairball. It's all right, Phil.
Which the prosecution deems to possibly be.
The beginning of the trial, it looks like he's sitting on her lap. Like I don't know if it's the camera angle. I don't know what the fuck's going on. It looks like he's sitting on her lap.
A violation of the court's order, but if so, we're not responsible for Mr. Pavlik because he's not our witness. That's number one. Number two, as soon as I got the motion, I contacted Ms. Gibson Jody Baby Doll Gibson is on our witness list. I placed her on our witness list, and I've been the liaison who's been contacting her and speaking with her.
100%
And
CH.
we do
Great
anticipate calling her as a witness, and she will be my witness. I will present her should the court permit it.
Happened so fast.
Through direct examination.
Trips me right the hell
I read
out,
her the 2 paragraphs that Mr. Jackson included, and she vehemently denies both of them. First of all, let's start with paragraph 5 and work backwards, if we may, for a moment. Paragraph 5 reads as follows, and I'm quoting, "On June 7th, 2007, I was informed that Gibson has appeared recently on the Geraldo Rivera show, at which time Gibson may have discussed this case." Now, I spoke with Ms. Gibson about that, and she is getting a copy of the Rivera tape, because after she spoke with me, I said, do you think you could possibly get that for me? I'd like to provide it to Mr. Jackson and Mr. Dixon, as well as the court, if what you say and what you indicate is going to be borne out by what's in the tape. She indicates that she told Mr. Rivera before she started the show that she could not talk about the case, that I had specifically instructed her not to speak about the case in any way. Mr. Rivera, of course, in his admirable way, I guess, as judged by some, paid no attention to her request and her admonition, and continued, as I understand it, to probe her on the show. And as I understand it, she declined each and every time. Ultimately, there was one thing that was said about it, and it had nothing to do with the circumstances surrounding Lana Clarkson or the murder. It was basically whether or not she had referred to her in her book as somebody who had worked for her, and the answer was yes. That's all she said, and she indicates that when you get the tape, you can look at it and you'll see she made no other statements whatsoever. Let's take now a look at paragraph number 4, which reads, and I'm quoting, "On June 7th, 2007, I was informed that Baby Doll Gibson has recently submitted to a public interview." That's wrong. It wasn't public. It was private. "To be featured in the next edition." That's wrong. It's not coming out until after August. "Edition of Marie Claire magazine." Marie Claire magazine, Your Honor, I'm sure the court knows, is a magazine that is issued in the UK. "Wherein she comments and speculates
Oh,
about
Gina Sievers, $2 holler on the second wheel that is working and growing here today. Good morning. Hope everyone is hanging and banging. That's what I'm talking about. Hanging, banging. We damn sure are, Gina. Welcome in here. Thank you so much. Let me get you on here real quick. Possibility of a T-shirt.
To me, that is incorrect, and she is in the process of reconstructing that interview. In fact, she indicates to me she doesn't even understand how the prosecution even found out about this, but it's quite possible that since she had my subpoena, which I have furnished to her earlier on, and it was laying on her coffee table when the interviewers came in from Marie Claire magazine, they must have seen it and contacted the prosecution's office, because she certainly didn't. Secondly, and thirdly, as I indicated, she was told that the edition for which this will be published is not coming out until August or thereafter, well after I think this case will be concluded. That is the information I have, so I am tendering that to the court as an explanation for her. As to Henry Lee, I believe either Ms. Kenny Bodden or Mr. Plord will address that, but I will provide the court those documentations and
Plord will put you to sleep
as soon as I receive it. But based on what Ms.
Rosin don't put you to sleep, because the entire time you're just in an infuriated rage at his tone and cocksuckeredness. Is that a word? Can I use that?
Again, I reiterate, I contacted her the moment I received this in the facts, and she indicated to me that she was very firm. She understood that she wasn't to talk about it, and she didn't. On a different note, I just want to indicate I tried to bring this to the court on Friday. I guess the court was dark Friday. I was off on Friday. Yes, that's fine. But
yeah, you damn sure right. It was fun, you son of a bitch.
I'd like to provide a transcript to Mr. Jackson and Mr. Dixon, and if I may approach, I'd like to hand this up to the court. I know this one works because I listened to it personally. Okay. Okay. And
have you guys ever been in one of those situations when, like, how can I explain this? It's like a friend of a friend thing, like somebody that didn't really know somebody. I'm really doing this for anybody that may be coming in and watching how aggressive I am towards Rosin. You ever had like a friend situation, or like somebody maybe that's coming in as a friend that sees you being maybe a bit aggressive towards a personality or somebody else? And I'm not saying like, you know, downright fighting somebody, but there's some hostility there, and they're like, why are you so hostile or aggressive towards that person? And it's because that person's a piece of shit. It's because they fucking suck, but no one else quite sees it, or they haven't seen it yet, and that person came in a little late. That's how I feel about Rosin. All right, this dude's a fucking cocksucker, ready to fight him. In the
After we
streets.
finish this, there is one other thing, Your Honor. The defense team has requested that I represent to the court a motion this morning, and we'd like to make a motion which is going to be directed towards a mistrial, and we have a series of things that I need to go over, but I think we should finish with Henry Lee first before we get to that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, just briefly, Your Honor, I want to make sure it's clear, at least for the record, is that what I'm not sure
There's
what the
Plord.
people are asking. I think they're just basically bringing information to the court, but we represent Mr. Spector, not necessarily the witnesses, if there's some ancillary proceeding, and I think the court, has an idea of what that is. But basically, I don't think that as to Dr. Lee that there's much of a prima facie case as to any issue that's been raised as to publicity, given the circumstances outlined by Mr. Dixon, and we'll leave it at that. But again, I'm not representing any witness. We represent Mr. Spector, and they're suggesting that the court take some action against the witnesses. I don't believe it would be appropriate to do that, but obviously that's the court's call. We'll leave it at that.
Did you advise Dr. Lee about not discussing facts about the case?
I did not personally do that. I believe that he was notified by somebody that it was taken care of.
Okay.
Your Honor, my
Dixon?
response would be that we all have a responsibility for our witnesses. I don't think we've seen any prosecution witnesses on Court TV talking about this case so far.
Court TV.
What Mr. Rosen said is that Ms. Gibson, in her Geraldo, if I heard him right, her Geraldo interview said that Lana Clarkson worked for her at one time. Well, that's the whole point, because she's promoting her book.
And we would have gotten away with it, too, if it wasn't for those meddling reporters from Court TV.
Her former profession. And that's the whole point of it. She shouldn't be on there. She is one of their witnesses. She shouldn't be on there, and she shouldn't be talking about the case. I just think that's clear. And if counsel would like us to specify the remedy, my request is that she be barred from testifying. And I think it's disingenuous for any of us to say that Bill Pavlik isn't a witness when he's already testified. My memory of my age is not quite clear. I think the defense called him. I don't think we called him in the hearing, but I could be wrong about that. But I think it's their witness too. We have to have, as lawyers and officers of the court, try to influence our witnesses to follow the court's order.
Okay. Certain observations. First of all, Mr. Plord, I think, hinted that there could be other proceedings. I don't think the way we handled this, which was to simply, I relied on the attorneys to tell the witnesses not to discuss the case because that was raised before me. That is not an order from the court, however. If anyone was hinting at contempt, that it would not be a valid contempt because they were not ordered by me not to speak. I simply relied on the attorneys to tell the witnesses who we assumed would follow the court's wishes. The fact that they chose not to is another thing, though certainly, especially with Ms. Gibson, I don't understand how she's going to be a witness in this case, quite frankly. We'll worry about that when the time comes. Her comments are indeed salacious. They're irrelevant as far as I can see to this matter. You certainly can tell me otherwise.
I need to add that to my
If there's some valid basis
vocabulary
for
on the reg.
testifying, that's another matter.
BGOG, get in here. Good morning.
It appears to me that she's there to dirty up Ms. Clarkson. That's pretty much what it appears to be. Now, there may well be something else there. I don't know.
Well, there's a number of things, and it is
About, 5 minutes till a wheel spin
not
here?
to get Ms. Clarkson.
Something like that?
Again, we'll get to that when we cross that bridge, and it is not our intent to trash Ms. Clarkson. What is our intent is to give the jury as much of what was going on in Ms. Clarkson's life and speculating, which both sides will do, as to what was going on in her mind at the time. And it is related to what occurred on the morning of February 3rd. It's not to dirty her up.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get to that when we get to it, but the bottom line is clearly if Ms. Clarkson, if she was informed that she shouldn't, as she was supposed to be, not speaking to the press, Ms. Gibson, excuse me, thank you, then certainly one of the remedies the court can consider, and I'm not saying that I will or impose that remedy, is to exclude her testimony. So it behooves all the parties. If your witnesses want to take the chance of not testifying because they can't keep quiet about matters that they shouldn't be discussing in public, well, that's something that you're going to have to worry about when the time comes. As to Mr. Pavlik, he was, I don't believe, considered to be a witness at trial. I'm not sure that the court telling counsel to tell their witnesses at trial not to discuss their trial testimony, in essence, would apply to him. I just don't see it, whether it was wise for him to get on television. I watched, you provided as part of the motion a CD. I watched it. Okay, I observed it. As to whether there should be any remedies, I don't know. If you want to put him on the witness list and he's a legitimate witness and you want to subpoena him, that's a different story. Right now, I'm keeping an eye on it. I think that's all that needs to be said concerning that matter. Now, what we have in addition, while we need to discuss Ms. Kaplan's situation, it's just filed. I need to read this from her attorneys as to whether or not she should testify in this matter.
Charlene, good morning.
Does have to,
welcome
once
in.
we make that decision, if there is some stipulation
Right?
that apparently has been offered by the prosecution, which I don't think the defense has had a chance to consider
So
fully
chill.
at this point. If there's some other remedy, fine. Obviously, I would welcome that. If there's not, then
No,
we have
here's
to
the
move
thing,
forward.
right? You feel his vibe, how chill he is, like fair, like wait till he gets a little bit, wait till somebody pushes him. Like he's not a pushover is what's awesome. Like that's my favorite type of person. That's the type of person that I hope that I am and strive to be, honestly. Like I'm the chillest motherfucker you're ever going to meet, but if you think that you can get over on somebody because they are so fucking nice, you know, I like the people that can push back and say, right? And I got one for that. No, not. I don't think so, buddy.
With
And I think that's what Judge Doward does
the
here.
proceedings,
Rules.
once I have a chance to look at the motion that she's filed, and then we have to decide when we want to do that. What witnesses do you have? How are you going to proceed now?
Your Honor, we
at
have
this
a
point?
full, believe we have a full day of witnesses.
Okay, well, what I'll do is I will consider the motion filed by Ms. Kaplan, take a look at it. We will set a date for her to come back to court. If that becomes necessary, we'll inform her counsel since she's on call at the present time, and we can just take that up as it comes along. And
Yes.
we'll go as it's appropriate. So if everybody's here and we have the jurors here and we're ready to proceed.
Good
I'd
way to
like
put it,
proceed.
Brooklyn.
We do have the motion for mistrial.
Okay.
The court like to do it. It will take a little time, and
We'll take it at a break. Okay, that's
The only
fine.
thing I would suggest, Your Honor, and I haven't thought this through fully, but Ms. Kaplan and Mr. White deal specifically with the 1700 Grandview scene. The only thing I would suggest is that this will come up, I think, sooner than later.
Well, I understand that. I'm not talking about putting it off for a long time. I just think you need to tell me what day we need to consider it so her attorneys can have her here and we can proceed as the court finds appropriate.
I expect that Mr. Renteria will take up the bulk of the day. He deals with a lot with the 1700 Grandview scene. Jamie Linton probably will be following him, and maybe one other witness or two other witnesses that will be relatively short as compared to Mr. Renteria. I would think by tomorrow it's going to become ripe. That's the order in which we would probably.
Let's see where we are at the end of the day. And we'll
1
make a
minute till the
decision
wheel
as to
spin.
Whether to have her come.
1 minute.
I saw her counsel here before, but I don't see him in the courtroom now. But in any event, let's bring in the jurors and the alternates.
Did the defense file a motion with regard to the same issue? Or was the court referring to our motion, our points and authorities?
I've read your points and authorities concerning Ms. Kaplan.
Yeah.
I have not read when I say the defense, Ms. Kaplan filed on her own behalf.
Oh, she did?
Yes.
Okay, I've not been served with that. Okay, that's right. Okay.
just to assist Mr. Jackson, I think that rather than being duplicitous, it really addresses her issues, which really fold right into the same issues on behalf of Mr. Spector and his privilege. So
Okay.
rather than shredding more trees, it's right there in the one motion.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, guys, it was wheel spin time. Let's see who gets a shirt this morning. Let's see where we're going next. An hour 20. We got a minute here coming up upon us. Next, we have LA County Sheriff's Department criminalist Steve Renteria. Let's see how close I got with that name. Takes the stand. And yeah, let me first of all, again, normally I have a camera. Normally I have a completely different setup with my own camera. This is my old, what I started this this channel with, Logitech webcam that's in front of me here. I have a way better camera that's right behind me, but I have something's going on with my cam link. So the camera that I'm using now usually is pointed over here to a designated area for the wheel. But right now, as you see on Feral Friday, I'm going to spin the wheel from right here. Good luck, everyone. Whoever wins this, again, can pick out a shirt from PubliclyBuzzed.com. Good luck. I'm going to try to do this without fucking it up, too, because I feel like... hold on. Okay, I'm just going. Kelly, there we go. I can see that one clear as day. Kelly with the win. There we go. I think Kelly is one of those that had been working on it for quite some time also. And yeah, starting to pick up some momentum now on the wheel. Hell yeah, Kelly. Let me get you here in the winning circle. I think you have a couple of shirts coming your way if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, get on PubliclyBuzzed.com. Let me know which one you want this time. And we will get that thing on the way. Yeah, you're in the next crew to receive. You're in the next wave of shirts going out. The next wave, let me count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The next wave is going to be Semi-Sharp, Tasha, Wildside, which Tasha and Wildside, I need to get both of your shirts. Oh, Wildside, I think I have Wildsides, if I'm not mistaken. I think I've got her information. Tasha, I need your shirt and where to send it and the size. And anybody needs to send that to me at publiclybuzzed@gmail.com. But the next wave, essentially, is going to be Semi-Sharp, Tasha, Wildside, Taryn Dusty, Kelly, Kathy, Dynado, and MJ. That is the next wave of shirts that will be going out. And again, Wildside, I'm pretty sure I've got your information. If I'm not mistaken. And then Tasha, I think I need yours, but I know how to get with Tasha on X if I need to. But hell yeah, congratulations. Kelly. That's what I'm talking about. Boom, there we go. Hell yeah, there we go. Yeah, let me know what else you need. And we'll get that coming, baby, coming. That's what I'm talking about. Huh? What are we doing? Messing around. That's what we're not doing.
Hold up.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, yeah, we got an hour 20 here. I need to actually take this name so I can change it there on the screen. And let's see how close I actually get to getting this name correct. Steve Renteria.
Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Steve Renteria.
You're damn right. You're damn right it is, Steve Renteria. You get the hell in here, buddy.
Thank you. Mr. Renteria, thank you for joining us this morning. Could you tell the jurors what you do for a living, please?
Yes, I'm a forensic scientist, or another word is a criminalist, and I work for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, not very far from this building. I've been there for approximately 23 years, and currently I work in the biology section, or the DNA section, and I also respond to...
Love you, Kelly. You're amazing.
As part of
always coming through.
What was your job back in February of 2003?
It was basically the same thing. I would go to crime scenes occasionally, and also I was still in the biology section.
Was it normal
Get excited when I get the names
for
right.
someone in your position to go to a crime scene?
Yes.
All right. That was not an unusual circumstance.
Correct.
Can you tell us what your duties include? Someone
He said
assigned,
duty.
a criminalist assigned to the biology section, specifically the DNA section?
I'm also a child, new people.
I happen to be the technical leader of that particular section, so my responsibilities are a little more than a regular analyst. I do casework on occasion, but I'm also responsible for training new analysts, making sure that the technical aspects in the laboratory basically meet standards that we have to follow. And we perform a variety of types of tests in the biology section, screening tests looking for biological fluids, usually blood, semen, vaginal secretion, saliva. Then if needed in a particular case, we can also do DNA typing, forensic DNA typing, to try to determine who could or could not have donated a particular crime scene stain.
When you use the word donate, tell us the context in which you, as a DNA analyst, as a DNA technician, use the word donate.
I'm using the word donate
And the way I would explain to you is if we find a blood stain at a crime scene or any biological fluid, usually the detectives or investigators may have some idea of who may have deposited that particular stain.
Yo, speaking of Kathy, oh, okay, I love it when this happens right here. Get a quick little pause in here. 420 through the Cash App, which I love to see. Wink, wink, if you know what I'm saying, and I think that you do. 420 for Pumpkin on the wheel, please. Pumpkin is Kathy's kitty, and this cat has been trying to win a shirt for weeks now, and I think it could be her, I don't know if it's a he or a she, but I'm going to say her for now until I'm corrected, her lucky day. So here we go. Pumpkin on the wheel, baby. Thank you so much for that 420. That's what I'm talking about. Again, as you can see up there, folks, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, all also ways to get on the wheel, and that cash actually goes directly into the Buzz Nation funds for the shirts. And YouTube's grubby hands can stay out of that, if you get my drift also, and I think that you do. But yeah, thank you so much, Kathy. Appreciate that. Pumpkin, good fucking luck.
Let's keep it at a blood stain. What we'll do in the laboratory is we'll get a DNA profile from the blood stain at a crime scene. Then we'll also determine what the DNA profile is from an individual who is suspected of donating that particular blood stain. So if the DNA profiles match, then we can say that that individual donated that blood stain at that particular crime scene.
We'll get, Mr. Renteria, we'll get more deeply involved in a discussion about DNA and the analysis behind DNA.
Afton, good morning.
Technology concerning DNA, PCR, and STR testing, et cetera. I want to shift gears a little bit and ask you, first of all, let's start this way so everybody kind of starts on the same page. Did you perform two separate tasks? Is it fair to break down your involvement in this case into two separate tasks? One, when you were actually at the crime scene and the observations that you made and certain collections that you made of evidence there. And then secondarily, your analysis once back at the lab.
Yes, that's true. Two totally different tasks.
And I understand I'm painting with a very broad brushstroke, but just in general, there was one hat you were wearing at the crime scene and a separate hat or an additional hat that you were wearing back at the crime lab, correct?
Correct.
All right. What education, training, and background qualifies you to perform these duties that you've explained to the juries? Sorry, I'll get that right. To the jury. Insofar as your DNA analysis and the technical aspect of that DNA analysis is concerned?
Well, briefly, I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in medical technology from Cal State University, Los Angeles. I've also taken several graduate courses in the field of forensic science from the same university. And throughout my career, I've had training, formal training from the FBI, the California Department of Justice. And then I also regularly attend seminars and other types of training related to the field of forensic science.
All right, let's talk about
Is there not a pumpkin?
your involvement at the actual crime scene. On February 3rd, 2003, did you engage in some kind of a field investigation or field observations at 1700 Grandview Drive in Alhambra?
Yes.
Did you go to that location at the request of the investigating officers?
Yes.
About what time did you get to that location?
I believe it was somewhere around 2:30 or 3 p.m. in the afternoon.
And who did you go with?
I went by myself originally. I was the criminalist on call that particular day. On call means that if a crime scene occurs,
Yo, Jersey Jen, get in here.
They have a name that they can contact to respond to the scene. So it was through the investigator, and I responded by myself.
Once at the crime scene, did you see anybody else from the crime lab there?
Yes.
Who?
There were several individuals from the latent print section, and I don't know if I can remember them all, but specifically I remember Susan Garcia, Gil Trujillo, and then there was one or two other individuals from that particular unit.
What about Bob Kyle? Was he there as well?
Yes, Bob, once we determined the scope of the crime scene, I determined at that point that I needed some assistance, otherwise I'd be there all night. And so we do have backup forensic scientists to help in those types of crime scenes. So I made a phone call to our dispatch unit and requested a second criminalist, which in this case was Bob Kyle.
And Bob Kyle is also, or back at that time, he was also a qualified criminalist at the crime lab, correct?
Yes.
Why did you, based on the scope of the crime scene that you saw, why did you feel it was necessary to have an assistant there or some assistance?
Well, the main reason is there were a lot of items of evidence that was already numbered by the homicide investigators, so I knew there was going to be a lot of note-taking, a lot of collection that was going to be occurring. And also the size of the residence was such that it really needed another pair of eyes, another forensic scientist to help and coordinate going through different rooms that we were supposed to examine. So it was really the amount of evidence and the size of the residence that I felt we needed a second criminalist.
Mr. Renteria, is it important as a criminalist, as someone who's involved in the forensic sciences, to make sure that when you, for instance, go to a crime scene, that documentation is done correctly? In other words, if a piece of potential evidence is seen, that it's properly documented, properly photographed, collected, and then submitted for later analysis at the crime scene.
Meowder Church.
In a situation like this, where it's a relatively large crime scene, and you may be working with other agencies, including the Sheriff's Department and their investigative branch specifically, as well as the Coroner's Department and other agencies, is it important to make sure that you keep track of what's been marked as a piece of potential evidence and what number or item number or evidence number it's been given?
Yes.
And how did you do that, or how was that done at this particular location?
Well, at this location, and like any other crime scene, we first look at the crime scene, try to identify what could be potential evidence in the case. Obviously, we don't know at the time on less obvious items. And then we number them with a specific number that will help us identify that particular item. Photographs are taken, and that's the responsibility of our latent print section, and that's why individuals from that section were there. Photographing the overall scene, the overall placement of a piece of evidence, and if necessary, close-ups of any particular piece of evidence that we are going to be.
All right, right now on the wheel, just real quick, Jersey Jen Mod popping through here, who keeps and likes to keep an eye on the wheel. We had one wheel spin this morning, which was absolutely amazing. Kelly pulling off a victory here this morning and getting a shirt, her second shirt, and I'm pretty sure. And we were talking about this because one morning I said, yeah, you've already got a shirt, and she was bitching about how she can't get a win. It's so hard. But we can't remember if someone gave her a shirt or if like she won one, because sometimes, you know, some of these names carry over to the next show and maybe they won't be able to come through and see that wheel spin. So I'm not exactly sure how it happened, but her name was in there in the winning bracket. So Kelly's got two freaking shirts coming her way. But yeah, this morning she grabbed one, which is sweet. But yeah, right now on this upcoming wheel, the second wheel of the day, if we can get one through, 3 names on there right now.
And to supplement that, we also take handwritten notes at the crime scene. I would take notes of items that obviously I would be collecting. Its condition, location within a room, and possibly even location as far as relating it to other items of evidence. So there's several ways we try to document. We do the best we can, obviously, at the scene, and we keep those case files and photographs for further review later on if needed.
And that case file and those photographs are kept under the broad aegis of a DR number that's assigned by the Sheriff's Department, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I want you to take a look at a series of photographs. People's 29, first of all. This has been previously marked, and I want to ask you if you recognize what's depicted in the 5 photographs that are now being shown on the overhead, A, B, C, D, and E. Do you recognize those photographs?
Yes.
Tell me, using those photographs to kind of navigate the jurors through your observations, what did you see when you first got to the crime scene?
Well, the very first thing that I observed is I was led into the very back part of the residence where the rear foyer is located and where the victim was located in the chair. And I could see through the open door the victim and the position of the victim in that particular room. Then sometime later, once the investigators had finished their work at the crime scene, I was allowed inside the residence to help, again, look for and categorize more pieces of evidence.
As the victim appears in photographs A, B, C, D, and E, is that how she appeared to you when you entered the crime scene that night?
Yes.
Or that afternoon, I should say.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Renteria, I have a laser pointer with court's permission. May I approach?
Yes.
Middle button right at the top. Did she appear as, and let's utilize photograph B as an example, did she appear slouched in the chair as she appears in photograph B on People's 29?
Yes, slouched in the chair. Her seat was basically towards the front of the chair, close to the edge. Her legs were straight ahead and extended in front of her. Her right arm was basically over the right rail of the chair, hanging loosely, and there was also a purse that she had on her shoulder that was basically right on top of her shoulder, at least the strap was.
She was trying to get the hell out of there.
Down onto the chair, and there was a large amount of blood
going on.
that was very noticeable on the right side of the jacket of the victim, then also on the right side of the chair, the purse, and immediately under the purse was basically a pool of blood that was present on the carpet.
Bonnie Bailey in the house. What's up, Bonnie?
I'm sorry. Take a look at what's been previously marked as People 62 for identification, and tell me if those four photographs, A, B, C, and D, accurately depict Ms. Clarkson as she was slouched in the chair with the purse over her right shoulder, as well as the purse specifically in photographs B, C, and D.
Yes, those accurately depict what I saw at the scene. Here's the purse. There was a large amount of blood on the right side of her jacket again, coming down, and even, I think it was even on the purse, then directly below the purse, in picture C, you could see the pools of blood that were basically made on top of the carpet, a very thick pool of blood.
With regard to a criminalist's duties, when you go to a crime scene...
There we go. Sheila Duffy with the 99 cents. Getting on that thing.
Potential evidence are moved.
Thank you, Sheila. Appreciate that.
Of the land, if you will, to get an idea of the observations that you can see grossly, in other words, visually, of what exists in and around that scene.
Yes.
Did you do that in this case?
Yes.
Did you move from room to room, for instance, out of the foyer and into the living room area and onto the bathroom before items of evidence or potential evidence had been moved or disturbed?
Yes.
Why is that important for a criminalist to do when you first arrive at a crime scene?
Well, the most important thing is try to get an idea of the entire picture of the crime scene, how big the scene's going to be. Sometimes if you go to a crime scene, maybe the crime occurred in just one room or even a small part of one room, so it's very isolated. In this particular scene, there were several homicide investigators from the Sheriff's Department that were working the scene, and I communicated with the different teams of homicide investigators as far as what they observed in the rooms that they were responsible for, and what potential items that were already marked by the homicide investigator for collection later on.
Is it important as a criminalist employed by the LA County Sheriff's Crime Lab to ensure the integrity of a crime scene when you enter it?
Yes.
All right. So, for instance, if there's something laying on the ground, you're not going to walk over and kick it and say, oh, that's interesting, look at that, and knock it across the room, for instance. That would be inappropriate for a criminalist or an investigator to do, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Did you take pains to ensure when you entered the crime scene that you looked where you were walking, that you did the best you could? As you know, we do live in a human environment, obviously, but that you did the best you could not to disturb or manipulate inadvertently items of evidence that may have been on the ground.
Yes, we're always looking down as we enter a scene because we do not want to step in, let's say, a blood stain that's still wet, and then actually make other stains as we're walking away from it. So we try to take care to not step in items like that or even kick things around as you
Pumped
described.
about that now.
And
Hey, there may be a show tomorrow. Thursday I was supposed to do a show that night for the Koberger hearing that happened where they're trying to move that to a different venue. There's a possibility, I still want to do that, so there's a possibility that I might do that tomorrow with my extra day, so just keep an eye out for that. We'll see how it plays out, though. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to go, so we'll see, but possibly tomorrow.
copious amounts of photographs are taken of a crime scene to try and document photographically the condition of the scene when investigators first approach and first appear
We shall
in the
see.
scene, correct?
I made a damn
In other
good
words,
thumbnail. I don't want to waste
It would
it.
be inappropriate to move and manipulate items of potential evidence and go ahead and bag them, then take photographs of the scene, correct?
Correct.
It'd be more appropriate to take the photographs first, then document photographically as things are being picked up, bagged as evidence, and booked into the sheriff's crime lab or the sheriff's department, one or the other.
Correct.
Is it just as important for a criminalist, Mr. Renteria, to make and document by and through his or her observations things that aren't there, that are not there, just as much as things that are there at a crime scene?
Yes.
Describe that.
It depends on a crime scene, what kind of crime scene we're going to. In this particular case, we knew, at least the coroner and the investigators felt that the victim sustained a gunshot wound to the mouth, and we were looking for, or I was looking for, as well as Bob Kyle, who assisted me, blood stains that would be on the victim's body, in front of, on the sides, and anywhere in general closeness to the foyer where the victim was located. So one of the things we're doing is observing where blood stains are, and if they're important or we feel they have evidential value, we'll mark those, document them, photograph them, collect them. And then we also try to also make notes on where blood is not present or cannot be seen. That could be important in a case, especially if we...
Shit, nice. Jersey Jen coming through here. And Jersey Jen's insane in the chat. Just we have some new folks in here today. I realized that. She's incredible. Gifting out a membership. And like I said before, make sure your memberships are turned on just for an instance, just like this. Bassett Page, who is awesome, who's always coming through. I'm going to promote something just because of her in just a second. She's in the Discord, always hanging out in our crafts section in there. So anybody that is into crafts, we have a recipe section. We have a really cool Discord. But getting gifted a membership from Jersey Jen, hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So get in here.
Welcome to the party, pal.
You know, and anytime we get new people, beers in the chat, folks. We got a liquor drink in there. We got a probably nothing stick in there, if you know what I'm talking about. And we got a Navy Grog, which is old Phil's favorite drink. Drop those in the chat. Drop those in the chat. And there she is. Boom. Right there. Bassett Page. Hanging out, baby. That's what I like to see. There they are. There they are. Meg knew what's up. Sheila knew. Afton knew. Yeah, let me get the Discord. The Discord's awesome, guys. I'm trying to grow it and get some different things happening in there. Get some interactions, some conversations, and I'm proud of what's happening. Boom. Join the Discord. Get in there. Get in the Discord. Become active. I don't know why I just clicked there. I clicked the Discord. That's not what I want to do. Before I mess something up here. Hell yeah. There we go. Bonnie Bailey knows what's up. That's what I'm talking about. Couch Jerk, baby. Popping off in the chat. Woo!
Instruction is going to be
Jersey Jen, let me get you on this one.
on a particular crime scene. That's also just as important as finding evidence is where blood stains are absent.
I want to draw your attention one more time to People's 29.
Tough acting and acting.
And ask you specifically to take a look at photograph D, as in dog. You indicated earlier in your testimony that you saw heavy or copious blood staining on Miss Clarkson's right side, correct? The right lapel of her jacket, etc.
Yes.
And that appeared
check
to
it
be
out.
down her right
And a
side
recipe section that
into
is
or onto
incredible.
her purse, and then beneath it pooling on the carpet.
There we
correct?
go.
Correct.
All right. Did you see
Meg's in
any
here.
obvious blood stains on the left side of Miss Clarkson? as
Check out
depicted
the
in
side over there.
photograph D?
A lot of cool stuff.
No. Now, I I got as close as I could to the victim at the crime scene. Obviously, we don't want to touch any potential pieces of evidence, but visually and with the flashlight, I did not observe any blood stains on the left side of
Just
Ms.
popped
Clarkson's
in there.
jacket, including
Growing
the
his
sleeve
thing.
area. And it did kind of stand out. I'm sorry, I'm pointing to photo D in this case.
People's 29.
People's 29. And I thought that was a very curious, to have a lot of blood on one side of the jacket and basically nothing visually identifiable there at the crime scene on the other side of the jacket. So at that point, talking to the investigators, we were going to, the best we can, try to preserve that condition of that particular jacket, because we didn't want, obviously, the right side of the jacket to come into contact with the left side of the jacket. And it would be looked at further under special lighting in a laboratory setting when we finally got the jacket from the coroners and brought it to our laboratory, where Dr. Harold was ultimately going to be doing the reconstruction in the case. So she would be in the best position, in the best location to make observations on the left side of that jacket.
All right. That would be in a perfect world, correct?
Yes.
All right. I've enlarged photograph D in People's 29. Were photographs taken, or is there photo documentation of your observations at the crime scene? In other words, does this photograph appear to show Ms. Clarkson's jacket on the left side in the basic condition that you saw it in when you're telling the jurors about how you recognized it or how you saw it?
Yes.
All right. And by and through this photograph, you can reiterate that, in fact, you saw no obvious signs of blood or blood flow down the left side of the jacket, correct?
That's correct.
You looked grossly with your eyeballs, correct, under natural light inside the foyer?
Natural light, and also, as close as I could get with a flashlight, maybe a foot away from the actual jacket.
So in other words, you looked close enough. May I approach briefly, Your Honor? You looked as closely as I'm standing to you with a flashlight, with the assistance of additional lighting, looking for blood on the left side or blood flow on the left side of Ms. Clarkson's jacket, correct?
Correct.
And you saw none?
No, I saw none.
Now, you indicated that in a perfect world, that left side of the jacket would be preserved in the condition that it's in here in order to make further observations back at the crime lab, correct?
Yes.
And you also are aware that, in fact, in this particular case, because of the
sausage rolls recipe that's in here, I have not that intricate. That's a lot of extra stuff, but I've made a sausage. We call it sausage poofs.
nature of the wound that Miss Clarkson
Oh my God, they look
suffered,
so fucking
and
good, though.
The pooling of blood that she would have suffered in the cranium or in the head cavity, that once back at the coroner's office, that blood had nowhere to go except to drain out, and it did in fact contaminate the left side of the jacket. You're aware of that?
Objection leading.
Sustained it the way the question was phrased, rephrase it in a non-leading fashion.
Sure. Are you aware of the condition of the jacket after the coroner's
Tara
office?
and Dusty, back in mid-August, put in 2 desserts. She's got a chocolate pie, a homemade whipped cream. I might do that. She also put in some fudgy, delicious brownies. Oh, my God. God, I might do the pie.
Had moved Miss Clarkson's body and placed it on a gurney at the coroner's office.
She said it takes forever.
How did you become aware of that?
The coroner's criminalist called me, Miss Lintonmute, to basically tell me what had happened. At the scene.
It is responsive. The objection is overruled. It's not hearsay. It's not being offered for the truth of the matter asserted, but to explain why and how this witness then did what he did. The objection is overruled.
The reason she called me is because we had a very long discussion there at the crime scene, myself and the personnel from the coroner's office, on the importance of trying to preserve the condition of that particular jacket, just because of the situation I briefly spoke about. And the coroner's office did take...
there we go. Queen Olive coming through here, gifting out a membership also, getting on the will, and she's a winner as well in the past, a G around these parts. BGOG getting gifted out that membership.
Welcome to the party.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Not fucking around. That's what I'm talking about.
Precaution. They wrapped a clean sheet that they use at the coroner's office around the face of Miss Clarkson, just in case there was blood that would be coming out of the mouth, in order to protect there. And they were very careful. I was present at this junction of the crime scene where they moved her body onto another sheet, and underneath that was a plastic sheet, wrapped her up, then put her on the gurney, and eventually transported her to the coroner's office. And Miss Linton Moot called me, I think it was the next morning,
Oh, damn, Kathy coming through here not fucking up. Jesus Christ. I can't even speak after I saw what's in here, because she just dropped off $10 through the Cash App. Get yourself a nice pre-roll. Oh, shit. Wow. Kathy really talking to me right now. Holy shit. That's $10. Straight up through the Cash App. Thank you so much, Kathy. That's unbelievable. Wow. You know what I'm going to do right now, Kathy? Extra bells. Extra bells this morning as we fill up a second wheel. This morning, the church is on fire, We're not fucking around this morning, Woo! Absolutely unbelievable. Thank you so much, Kathy. Wow. Also, good luck to Pumpkin.
Say that, something had happened to the jacket, and she told me that when the photographer was taking pictures of the clothing that was still on Miss Clarkson, she was rolled to one side, and it wasn't noticed at the time, but blood was coming out of her mouth, got onto the table, and when she was rolled back onto the left side, basically the left side was now in a puddle of blood and body fluids and whatever else came out of her mouth. So she was obviously very apologetic, and accidents happen, and that's what happened in this case.
All right, so the left side of the jacket, if there are subsequent photographs that indicate in the studio, for instance, the crime lab studio, that indicate there is blood on the left side of the jacket, that is from the pooling.
There we
go.
BG getting in here.
In other words, the contamination.
Love it.
Not the condition that it was in at the crime
Get
scene.
in Discord, folks.
Sustained to the way the question is phrased.
What is your understanding of the condition of the jacket if it shows blood? And I'm talking about photographs, subsequent photographs. If those photographs show blood on the left side of the jacket, what is your understanding of how that blood got on the left side of the jacket and on the sleeves and buttons, etc.?
Well, that blood stain that you describe on the left side of the jacket was not present or could not be seen at the crime
Kathy,
scene.
thank you so much.
Miss Linton Mute explained what happened, so my assumption is that's how the blood got there after she arrived at the coroner's office.
All right. Did you also observe the chair that Miss Clarkson was seated in terms of your general observations of the crime scene are concerned? The chair that she was seated in after she was removed from that chair.
That's what I was missing in the Discord all along. I've been trying to grow that thing for, it's coming up on 2 years now. And, I've got a lot of people in there, but a lot of those people don't do anything. They don't chat. There's no reason to. So I was like, man, and hell, doing these on the reg now, we all become friends in here and get to know each other better. So that was one thing that, I don't know if it came on separate weeks or what, but the crafts popped up and then the recipes, and I was like, man, this is a great freaking idea. And again, I'm going to take the time, and I may do this one that Bassett Page posted just a couple of days ago on August 29th, but it's like a chicken pot pie type of recipe here. It looks like a comfort food type of thing, and I just now put in there, I said, it looks like a comfort food, but I always need a little comfort, so right up my alley.
All right. Take a look
Let's go.
People's next in order, Your Honor, I believe this would be
94.
I want to say 93. I'm sorry?
94.
Okay. Take a look at photograph A and B in People's 94 and tell me if you recognize what's depicted in those photographs.
Yes, in A, the chair on the left side of the photo, as you're looking at it, was the chair where Miss Clarkson was positioned in. And this is a kind of a partner chair to here that is just shown in the overall photograph. Then picture B shows the chair, a little bit of a close-up photo, and there were bloodstains observed on the right arm, on the rear portion of the seat, then also on the backrest on the right side of this particular chair.
When you say the right side of the chair, are you talking about the right and left in terms of someone being seated in the chair? The chair's right would be the person's right, and the chair's left would be the person's left?
That's correct, as you're seated in the chair.
As we're looking at this chair, we're looking on the left side of the chair, but that's the right side as you describe it, correct?
Correct.
Is that blood staining and that blood pooling that's predominantly on the right side of the chair, it looks like it might be exclusively on the right side of the chair, consistent with the blood staining that you saw on Ms. Clarkson's body at the crime scene? In other words, on the right side and not on the left?
Yes.
All right. Did you also see a revolver at the crime scene?
Kaylin coming through the Cash App right now with $5. Thank you so much, Kaylin. And you might want another shirt. And she says, get yourself an oatmeal raisin cookie. I'll get a couple of oatmeal raisin cookies with that. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Yes, I did.
Where was that
Hell
revolver?
Yeah.
It was beneath the legs of Ms. Clarkson.
Thanks for that share today also.
Yes.
Right. Kaylin has a crazy Twitter account. Large Twitter account.
After you got to the crime scene and made your initial observations, Mr. Renteria, about kind of the lay of the land, as I've put it previously, did you become more focused in an effort to try to find specific evidence at the crime scene, specifically with regard to the transfer or existence of blood staining?
Yes.
Did you look at that back door, the back door that's closest to the fountain?
Yes.
Okay. Take a look at what's been previously marked as People's 85 for identification. And tell me if you recognize what's depicted in those three photographs, A, B, and C.
Yes, all three photos show the interior side of the south door, which was right next to that foyer where the victim was located. And in A, you can see the picture of me at the crime scene, basically holding up a number placard, in this case number 20, for an overall photograph to be taken, and that is the door handle.
Love you, Kaylin. Thank you so much.
The placard is underneath. B is just a closer shot of that particular picture with item placard number 20 in place. And picture number C, if you look on the right side of the photo, that's the same interior doorknob from the same door that you see in B. But what we're trying to focus on in this particular picture is the latch bolt that comes out of the door that engages into the door frame, because that had a red stain consistent with blood, and also the
there we go, Michelle.
Had a discontinuous smear of blood on it, and again, that's the interior doorknob of that particular door.
I failed to ask you this previously, and I was about to ask you about this particular item. Let me go back to the chair for a second. You indicated that there was substantial blood staining on the chair. Was that chair collected as an item of evidence or potential evidence and submitted to the lab for later analysis?
Yes, that evening I collected the chair and transported it myself to the crime lab.
Regarding blood stains,
thank you,
obviously
Miyabito.
It's easier to collect a chair and wrap it as a piece of evidence and transport that. It's a little more difficult to collect a door or a latch bolt. How do you collect blood stains on an item of evidence that either has some staining pattern or transfer pattern on it? What's the methodology for collecting those stains?
If we can't collect the entire item because it's too bulky or too cumbersome to bring back to the laboratory, we use a technique used at crime labs all over the world probably, is we take a basically like a Q-tip swab, but it has a single swab at one end and then about a 6-inch wood stick that we use to hold. Excuse me. That's a sterile swab. It's clean. It hasn't been used before. And then we take sterile water, put a couple drops of water at the end of the swab, and to make it moist but not too wet. And then we take the swab and we touch the particular blood stain or body fluid that we're interested in collecting. And what happens at that point is the moisture or the water in the swab will kind of make the blood stain get back into a liquid form, and then the blood gets absorbed onto the cotton. So now we've basically picked up the blood stain from the harder surface, and now it's onto the swab. We package that swab carefully, then bring it back to the lab and allow it to dry. Then, if needed, further analysis is performed.
You talked about using sterile swabs and sterile water for the purposes of collecting blood stains for later DNA analysis. Why is that important?
Well, the DNA technology we use in the crime lab and of course all over the country and the world is a very sensitive technique, which means that we don't need a lot of DNA in order to get results. So we want to make sure that the starting items that we're using to collect stains like that don't have any contaminating DNA on them. So after we do analysis, the DNA profile that we would get at the very end of the process, we could be sure is from the actual blood stain and not from some previous contamination, either in the water or on the swab before we even used it to collect.
So if I hear you correctly, Mr. Renteria, you would not just find a piece of cotton at a crime scene and use that to collect a blood stain because you have no idea what that background DNA might be, correct?
Correct.
Or you would not, I mean, it would be inappropriate, for instance, to grab something off this table, seeing that I've just touched it, and say, okay, collect a blood stain on that Post-it note, correct?
Correct.
That would be sloppy.
It'd be inappropriate, yes.
Yeah. You would never do that?
No.
And the crime lab would never engage in that kind of conduct?
No.
Okay. That would be inappropriate conduct for any forensic scientist to do, correct?
Yes.
All right. So you engage in the proper forensic scientific method, which is to utilize a sterile swab, some sterile water, and use gloves, I'm assuming, gloved hand like you're wearing in the photographs?
Yes.
To collect stains off of certain items of evidence at the crime scene, correct?
Correct.
Did you collect the stains off the latch bolt?
Yes.
Did you collect the stains separately off of the doorknob?
Yes.
Okay. Did you use two different swabs?
Yes, I did.
Did you book those two separate swabs under unique lab receipt numbers or under the same lab receipt number, or how did you do that?
I believe it was under the same lab receipt number. One of them was donated 20A, and then the other one was called 20B.
So they are designated numerically to separate themselves, correct?
Yes.
And then there are documentations done in your notes and on the lab receipt themselves to separate 20A might be the latch bolt and 20B might be the doorknob, correct?
Correct.
And in this case, that's exactly what it was, right? 20A was the latch bolt, 20B the doorknob.
Yes.
And those stains were lifted on the swabs, put into some kind of a sterile vial, I'm assuming?
Well, we actually, we created a swab collection device that allows us, once we collect the stain, to slide a plastic cover over the swab, thereby protecting it from touching anything. Then once that is done, then that goes into a manila envelope that will help protect it from other items around it.
Other than the blood staining on the latch bolt and the doorknob on the back door, did you find any other blood staining in or around the foyer area, specifically looking at the banister or the handrail of the stairway?
Yes.
Describe that for the jurors, please.
On the very bottom part of the handrail of that particular staircase, where one would touch, let's say if you were going to start going up the steps for balance, there was a discontinuous smear of blood that was present on top and on the side of that particular handrail. That probably had a dimension of approximately, maybe 3 inches in diameter, but it was discontinuous. It wasn't totally covered with blood. There were heavier areas, lighter areas, and some clear areas. And what it looked like to me is, something that had blood on it came into contact with that handrail and transferred that blood onto that particular handrail.
For instance, a human hand that had blood on it.
That's a possibility, yes.
Okay. Take a look at what I'd like to have as marked as people's next in order 95, with the court's permission.
Yes.
It bears 4 photographs. This is an 8.5 by 11 document that bears 4 photographs, A through D. Can you tell the jurors what we're looking at in A, B, C, and D?
Yes. In photograph A, What we see here is the rear stairway. You could see probably just on the left side of the photo the extended legs of Miss Clarkson, so that it was the stairway just in front of her. And this would be the handrail that would lead all the way up to a landing, and then eventually the stairs go up into the second floor. And the blood stain that I noticed and photographed, had photographed and collected, is probably a little bit a better picture would be C and D. And in particular D, you could see in this area here where I'm putting the pointer, some red brownish stain material. Then there was also some blood on the very edge of this coming off that stain material.
Did you take a close look at that? Let's focus on photograph D in People's 95. Did you take a close look at that handrail to get an idea of that discontinuity that you were talking about, that discontinuousness of the blood stain itself and where it was on the handrail?
Yes.
Did it appear that that blood had moved or been smeared such that it could have dripped or appeared to have been dripping down?
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes.
Describe that for us. What did you observe?
The flash from the camera kind of drains it out here or makes it too bright, but
gets me every time.
Area
Ghoul Phil gets me every time.
In this location
Creepy
here.
bastard.
And if you look where this little flash burnout is, there was also some blood running along this side. Now that would be the vertical side of the handrail. Now, I didn't see anything that really looked like, it absolutely dripped off, but it was definitely on the horizontal part of the rail, and then coming over the edge and on the vertical part of that particular rail.
With regard to by the way, did you collect a sample of this blood?
Yes.
Did you do it utilizing the same technique that you've explained to the jurors just a few minutes ago as far as your collection off the door latch or the latch bolt and the back door knob?
Yes, sir.
Why were you interested in this particular blood stain?
Well, it obviously was in a location a good distance away from the victim, and given the way the victim had laid to rest when the shot occurred, it was very obvious to me at the time, given the distance and the type of stain that this was, that that couldn't have been left by the victim herself, that it possibly could have been the victim's blood, but something else or somebody else made the transfer onto that particular item. So I thought it was of forensic interest to have it documented and collected, and later on determine whose blood could that be from.
All right. If in fact, Mr. Renteria, there had been a drip of blood beneath the handrail, would that have been of any significant interest or interest in terms of being a criminalist to you, if in fact you had already collected the blood from the handrail?
If there was a blood stain down in that area, given the fact that I did see blood on the vertical surface of that handrail, and if there was a blood stain, basically right below it on one of the steps, in this case it would be the second step, I would not see that as any additional forensic value, and I would not have collected it, because I would have made the assumption there at the crime scene at the time that that was probably from the same blood event that left the blood on that particular handrail.
All right. So if in fact you saw a stain of blood that was of interest to you on this jury rail, and you collected that sample, is what you're explaining to the jurors that if that dripped down or appeared to have dripped down either on the vertical wall or on the floor beneath it, your interest would have been to determine whose blood or who were the probable donators of that blood stain on the rail, not necessarily the drip beneath it, because it would have come from the same event in your mind?
Yes.
All right. Did you also look in places other than the foyer area for blood evidence?
Yes.
Did you look in the bathroom that was just around the stairway?
Yes.
All right. What, if anything, well, I should ask you to take a look at a series of photos previously marked as People's 83. Tell me, Mr. Renteria, do you recognize the photographs A, B, C, D, and E in People's 83?
Yes.
Let's orient ourselves, first of all, taking photograph A. Do you see, it's a little bit dark, and I apologize for that on this overhead. It is a little bit underexposed. Do you see what appears to be a stairwell, kind of angularly going up to the left?
Yeah, on the left side of photograph A, yes.
Okay, is that the same stairwell or stairway that we've been talking about that has the adjacent banister that you collected blood from?
Yes.
So just on the other side of those stairs is a little hallway or an anteroom, correct?
Correct.
And that leads directly into a bathroom, is that right?
Yes.
Can you see that in photographs B, C, D, and E?
Yes.
All right, what specifically, taking photograph C, it's the largest photograph, or the one taken furthest back, were there several items of evidence of concern to you in that bathroom area?
Yes.
Describe that for the jurors, please.
Well, one thing I noticed in this particular bathroom, on the floor just in front of the toilet in this bathroom, I noticed, and other people there noticed too, what looked to be like a rag. Later on, it was determined it was some kind of a cotton diaper, kind of an old-fashioned cotton diaper. That was heavily bloodstained in various areas on it, and it also appeared to be wet. And later on with gloved hands, once it was collected, you could feel the wetness even through the gloves, and my gloves, once it was collected, also had some like water stains on it. So it had a lot of moisture, probably water on it, as well as several blood stains that were noted. So that was photographed, documented, and collected.
Did you find that rag next to an open toilet as depicted in photograph C?
Yes.
And was the lid up on the toilet as it is depicted in photograph C?
Yes.
The rag was sitting, that angle may be difficult for the jurors to get an idea of relative position. How far would you say that rag was from that open toilet?
Oh, I would say not more than a foot.
That red toilet. Jesus Christ, dude. It's like the rug seeps up and takes over the entire toilet and the bathtub over here.
Toilet.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else was of import in the bathroom?
Well, the other thing that was a little out of place, at least I thought at the time, was on top of the toilet itself, the tank. On the tank lid, if you see in picture C, next to number 13, that would be the tank lid of the toilet. And picture D is a close-up of that particular item. There were two apparent false eyelashes.
It blends in.
That were just sitting by themselves on top of the toilet tank. I thought that was a little unusual, so not knowing if it was going to have any forensic value, we still photographed it, documented it, and collected it.
All right, so those were collected as well?
Yes.
And I assume...
I've had it, though.
It goes without saying that you indicated that you did...
Not because I wanted it there, but it was there.
Correct?
Yes.
And that was later submitted at the crime lab?
Yes.
And the false eyelashes were later submitted to the crime lab as well?
Correct.
Did you ever go upstairs?
Yes, and I'm sorry, I forgot to mention one other item.
Please.
That was collected here. Item number 12, which is a little bit out of view in picture C, was a burgundy wash towel, about the size of a wash towel, that same type of fabric. I didn't know if it had any evidentiary value. Again, it was dark in color, so it was hard, at least at the crime scene, to note if there was any blood stains or small blood stains. So just in case, we documented it, photographed it, and
I want it blood red just for, when I accidentally kill somebody, we can get it cleaned up pretty easily.
did that and brought it back to the lab.
Did you later determine whether that burgundy wash towel
Phil
was
Spector logic.
either wet or stained with blood?
I found no blood on that particular item.
So as it turns out, you collected it in an abundance of caution. It had little evidentiary value to you.
Correct.
Back to my, is there anything else that you collected in the bathroom that's of note that the jurors should know about?
No.
Okay. Did you go upstairs at any point?
Yes.
take a look, if you would, at what's been previously marked as People's 88 for identification, and tell me if you recognize the 3 photographs depicted in 88, A, B, and C.
Yes.
Where is that room, and what's it depicting? What are those photographs depicting?
This room is upstairs. I think at the time we were calling it kind of a dressing room because there are items of clothing on hangers throughout the room. I don't recall if there was a bed in this room or not. But one of the things that Robert Kyle did to assist in this crime scene is we kind of divided up the areas of interest that we're going to be looking at, and Mr. Kyle is the one who started examining this room first, and he noticed on the floor in picture A, I believe it's on the right side of the photograph, kind of next to this reclining chair, was a white dinner jacket, kind of a real shiny type of beige white in color. And Mr. Kyle at the time noticed some red stains that were present on the jacket. He also performed, he told me, a KM test, which is a presumptive blood test that indicates that blood may be present in the particular stain. He notified me of it. I went upstairs and observed it, and with his help, we numbered it, documented it, photographed it, and eventually collected it and brought it back to the crime scene. To the crime lab.
All right. Ultimately, I guess one of my questions would be, does photograph C accurately depict the condition that you saw the jacket as it sat in the dressing room?
Yes.
And that was upstairs, correct?
Correct.
All right. You indicated that it was numbered, documented, and then collected. Did the sheriff's did the personnel from the crime lab work in conjunction with sheriff's investigative personnel to make sure that the numbering was consistent?
Yes.
Okay, so there's an investigating officer that's in charge of dictating which items of potential evidence gets which numbers, correct?
Correct.
And in this case, that was Detective Lilienfeld, correct?
That's correct.
All right.
Still got quite a while here. I'm going to run upstairs, use the bathroom, guys. I will be right back.
At some point,
Jersey Jen is in charge.
did you leave the residence on February 3rd or the early morning hours of February 4th?
Put up the smoke.
Yes, it was late night, February 3rd, the same day.
Okay. About what time did you leave the residence?
Just by memory, it must have been maybe around 10 o'clock. 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
All right. And that was after you engaged in what you've just described to the jurors as collection of certain evidence, either physical items of evidence or the collection of blood stains in and around the foyer area or other parts of the house, correct?
Correct.
And that was specifically done for later DNA analysis?
That's correct.
All right. And, well, I guess I should ask you this. Did you ever return to the crime scene after you left on February 3rd?
Yes.
When and why?
The next day, well, actually, it all started that first night. The foyer carpeted area plus the stairs were very dark burgundy color. And given my experience with working crime scenes, and it's very difficult when you have items of that color and that type of texture to see small blood stains that may be present visually, and even with a flashlight, it's often difficult with that type of color carpeting. So, and as I mentioned earlier, I did notice that I couldn't visually see any blood on the carpet directly in front of Miss Clarkson. And also, I also looked visually on the wood paneling that was on the stairway wall. That was on the vertical side of that staircase. Looking visually with the flashlight, I didn't see anything that would tell me it was potentially blood for any further testing. But knowing that this case probably was going to be a reconstruction case to try to figure out what could have occurred at this particular scene, I suggested to the detectives that we may want to come back the next evening to do what's called a luminol examination. And luminol is a special chemical that we use at some crime scenes, not all of them, that helps us find blood that you just can't see with your naked eye, and especially when it's that type of colored background. And the process is pretty simple. You mix up some chemicals in a large, basically a garden sprayer, because this is going to be a big area. Mix them up, put on protective clothing, then turn all the lights off, get it as dark as you could possibly get it, then literally just spray the surface areas that you're interested in to see if there might be blood stains that you can't see visually. If there is a blood stain present, the luminol gives a reaction that basically, if there is blood present, it would glow almost like a bluish, purplish light. In the dark, you actually see this glowing, almost like at least back in my day, we used to have the black lights and the fluorescent posters. It'd be that kind of a glowing, very, very bright, very easy to see. Then if we did see some reaction with the luminol, then we can go back to that area and do some further testing, maybe cut out an area, bring it back to the lab. So it helps us find blood that isn't obvious. It's either very small, or if there was any cleanup that occurred. If you had blood on a carpet and somebody cleaned it up so good that you couldn't see anything visually, there'd be enough remaining blood in that sample to give you a strong luminol reaction. Then you would obviously go and collect that particular item. So that was done the night after, on the 4th.
Take a look, Your Honor, if I may, People's Next in Order 96.
Yes.
8.5 by 11 document that bears 4 photographs. Take a look at these 4 photographs of the foyer area, A, B, C, and D, and tell me if you recognize what's depicted in those photographs.
Yes, again, it's the foyer area where Ms. Clarkson was seated. And what you see here is basically looking from the south door into the house. And here's the stairway we've been talking about in picture A. A little bit closer shot in picture B. Picture C shows the south door of the foyer on the left side of the picture, and on the right side is that first stairway going up to the first landing. Then picture D is the carpeted area immediately in front of that south door. And you could also see on the right side of the picture the wood paneling that is on the vertical surface of that stairway.
Did you already have the luminol reagents put together by the time you got here, or is that something you do at scene?
We could basically start, it's a 2-part mixture. We could start with part 1, getting it dissolved, and then when we're ready, the room is dark enough, and we have our protective clothing, then we add the final chemical, mix it until it's all dissolved for the final preparation, and then that's when we start spraying.
You indicated that on February 4th you went back there that night. Why was it important to you to go at night rather than broad daylight?
Well, yeah, we started in the afternoon, but we wanted to get there late enough so we didn't have to wait so long for the sun to go down. This was a big house, huge areas, big windows, and we wanted to make sure that we could take advantage of the sun going down and just being dark outside to help get the interior of the house dark as possible.
Can you describe for the jurors, well, I was assuming from your comments that at some point it did get dark enough for your satisfaction to begin the luminol process.
Yes.
Can you explain for the jurors using these photographs, and by the way, I guess I should say, or ask you, these photographs are not indicative of the night that you were doing the luminol because it's still light outside, correct?
Correct.
As a matter of fact, in one of the photographs, photograph D, you can see the right foot, what appears to be the right foot of Miss Clarkson, correct?
Yes.
These are simply exemplar photographs that I'm going to ask you to utilize to explain to the jurors the areas that you luminoled on February 4th, 2003.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
The areas that I was interested in, again, at the initial evening during the examination process, I thought it was interesting and remarkable that I didn't see any blood stains in front of the victim on the carpet. So because of the color of the carpet, I wanted to make sure we weren't missing anything. And that's why we did the luminol. So the first part of the luminol exam was the carpeted area where the victim would be on the right side of this picture A. I wanted to spray the entire surface area of this carpet, starting from the south doorway and going all the way back and wrapping actually around the stairway into that bathroom where other items were collected. I wanted to make sure that if there was a drop of blood or any spatters of blood, that the luminol hopefully would find it. So that was my initial concentration. I also sprayed the vertical surface of the stairway wood paneling from the very bottom where it touched the carpet all the way up to the very, very top steps. I wanted to make sure if there was any blood stains that were present on that vertical surface that we didn't miss them that particular night, the night before. I also sprayed the stairs, each individual stairs starting from the very bottom, step 1, all the way up to the landing, and I also sprayed the landing with luminol, just in case if there was any stains, present on the carpet in that particular stairs. And in addition to that, once I was up here on the landing, I sprayed luminol on the top surface of the handrail from the first landing all the way down to the very bottom step where I did collect bloodstains that night before. And as mentioned before, I sprayed the carpet in front of the stairway in that little alcove that led into the bathroom. The bathroom carpet, which was carpeted with the same type of color, I sprayed that to see if there could have been any blood that we just didn't see the night before.
All right, let's take those one at a time. You've described for the jurors where you luminoled in an effort to try to find any blood that would luminesce or that would fluoresce under the luminol lighting, or the luminol chemicals, I should say. The middle landing, in other words, that landing upstairs that's indicated in photograph C toward the top of the photograph, was there any blood that you found utilizing the luminol test on that middle landing?
No blood detected.
Looking at the lower portion, and I'm going to be very specific, the lower portion of the well, let's take it in order. Moving down the stairs, was there any blood on the stairway, the carpeted portion of the stairway itself?
No, no blood detected.
Did you luminol the stairway banister rails?
No, not the vertical rails.
The vertical rails.
Yeah, were metal. They probably got sprayed when I was on the first floor, on the very bottom floor, and as I sprayed...
Oh, the heat is my bad, guys. My bad. Sorry about that. Boom, 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 boom.
The wood paneling, I would have lapped over and sprayed a little bit, probably not all the way to the top, but a little bit.
4 names away from a new span, I believe, Jen.
Taking a look at photograph C for identification. I'm sorry, photograph C in People's 96 for identification. Do you see the white wall?
4 names away
the stairway
from a new spin.
Yes.
Did your luminol technique take the spray up a certain distance on that white wall?
Yes.
Yo, black economist coming through here. What's
probably,
up? Yeah.
Anywhere
black
from
coffee.
2 to 3 feet. Because as I'm spraying, walking down the stairs, again, it's a garden hose sprayer, so I'm just going back and forth, lapping up the wall just a little bit, and then over to the left side, and as I'm walking down,
Morning,
Simi.
Simi.
Got lapped up just probably about 2 or 3 feet from each step.
Did you find any blood on the wall? Was there any blood detected?
No.
Once downstairs, did you spray the area of the carpet adjoining the stairway area to the bathroom area?
Yes.
Did you
1
find any
month?
blood staining?
No blood
That's
detected.
awesome, Sinead. And she's got 2 shirts on the way. Okay, I'll never forget it. I think it was 2 weeks ago, if I'm remembering correctly. First full show coming in here, won a wheel. Maybe first donation, won a wheel, and then the second wheel that same day won it. Back-to-back wheel spins on the same show, first day. Incredible. 1 month. Hell yes. That's awesome. Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Nice. And Pokebob coming through here with a $4.99. This is addicting, this wheel. Yes, it is. It is. I see a lot of folks coming through here trying to win this thing. And Pokemon coming back through here, and I appreciate that with a $5. Let's go, Pokemon. Shelly, absolute G around these parts as well. And then Nay, right, hanging out before they completely take off, becoming a Buzzed and Confused member here at Publicly Buzzed. And I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yes, nice.
Welcome to the party.
Welcome to the party. Not messing around. And also, that'll get you right on that wheel is what that'll do. That's exactly what that'll do. So we're not 2 away now. Also, just make sure I'm not missing anything in the apps, as you can see above there. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal will also get you on the wheel. And I think we're good. I think we're caught up right now. I think we're 2 away. Let me just make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 2 names away to a second wheel spin. All right, that's what I'm talking about, baby. That's what I'm talking about, baby. Love you, Sinead. Let's go. I love this. I love the Buzz Nation that we're growing here together. This is fucking awesome. Murder Church.
Into the foyer area. First of all, let's take the wood-paneled wall. Well, actually, let me back up. Did you spray the area behind Miss Clarkson, the east wall where the mirror was?
Yes.
What was the result?
No blood detected on that wall.
Did you luminol the area depicted most prominently in photograph D, the wood-paneled wall that you've earlier described as maybe overlapping with those vertical banister rails? Did you luminol that area?
Yes.
Was there blood found on that area?
No blood detected there.
And lastly, did you luminol the area of the carpet between Miss Clarkson's body? For instance, you can see her shoe.
Black Economist. I'm not sure if you've won a shirt yet, but getting on there right now with the possibility. I remember the wheel spin, but I don't think there was a win there, if I'm not mistaken, because I remember thinking, man, there's another person that has not fully won a wheel. 1 away from a spin now. Thank you so much. Love it.
In photograph D.
I'm going to check right now also, just make sure I'm not crazy. There it is. That's a will. That right there is a will to completion. Sinead, thank you so much with the $6 coming through here. And that is how you finish up a will spin. So right after this video, in about 20 minutes, we will be doing a second will spin right here, folks. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you all so much. Seriously, that's fucking awesome. Love it.
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Love it.
Wall,
I love it.
Wood-paneled wall.
Yeah, not only in front,
They'll work on that will too
the
now.
Entire exposed carpet
Give me a second.
in that foyer.
Give me a second.
Which would include, obviously, the area directly in front of her.
And did that luminesce at all?
The only areas that luminesced were the puddles of blood that were obviously visible the first night.
All right. In other words, to be very specific, if the chair is where I'm placing this chair, there was a pool of blood beneath the right arm, and I'm being a little lax with I know you're a scientist, you'll probably correct me, I'm being a little bit lax, but colloquially, just a pool of blood was beneath the right arm of this chair, correct?
That's correct.
So other than that pool of blood, you luminol the entire area in front of the carpet, moving all the way to the wall that was the wood-paneled wall of the stairway, the angled wall, correct?
Correct.
No blood detected in the area between Miss Clarkson and the wood-paneled wall, correct?
That's correct.
And no blood detected on that wood-paneled wall itself, is that right?
That's correct.
In your experience, had there been blood spray, all right, from the wound that Ms. Clarkson suffered that went as far as that wood-paneled wall, had there been blood spray, would that luminol have detected it, in your opinion, having used it previously?
Yes, it would have detected it.
Is one explanation for the fact that there was no blood spray detected in your luminol test between Miss Clarkson and that wall is one explanation that something was standing between Miss Clarkson and the wall, blocking it.
That would be one explanation, yes.
Mr. Renteria, I said that we were going to kind of break your testimony into 2 parts. The part
Ready to
where you were at
rock.
the crime scene, the part back at the lab. And I'd like to change gears now, if that's okay with you, and ask you about some
Thank you guys so
specific
much.
things that you did back at the crime lab. You've already indicated that you've had specific training as a criminalist, as an employee.
Okay, there we go,
of
Nay.
the,
Thank you. Thank you.
Los Angeles County Crime Lab, or Scientific Services Bureau. Did you also have specific training with regard to DNA analysis?
Yes.
Describe that training and background for us, please.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it briefly before, but I've had formal training at the start of my DNA work there at the crime lab from the FBI. It was a 1-month course on forensic DNA typing is what it's called.
And that's my mistake. So the FBI training that you were referring to at the beginning of your testimony was dedicated to DNA analysis.
That's correct.
Okay, and go ahead for us, please.
Then I also had training from the California Department of Justice. They have a big DNA unit, and they offer training to individuals in California, mainly public labs, to go to training and learn more about DNA. And then throughout my career, I've had training from different vendors where we purchase equipment specific for DNA typing. And I was one of 2 individuals who actually started the DNA effort for Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. So I've been working with DNA since 1990, basically validating our procedures when we first started. Then in 1994 is when we actually started our first case for DNA typing on an older technology, but it was still DNA. And I've been working and going to training classes ever since. For DNA typing.
So you were on the ground floor, if you will, of utilizing DNA analysis here in Los Angeles County for investigative techniques.
That's right. I was one of 2 people.
All right. And you've been involved with it ever since?
Yes.
Are there certain accreditations that the crime labs throughout the country go through to be an accredited DNA analysis approved crime lab?
Yes.
That was a very clumsy way of saying that. Why don't you describe it? You can probably do a better job.
Well, you're using the term accreditation, and there is a national organization called ASCLD Lab, and basically stands for American Society of Crime Lab Directors Laboratory Accreditation Board. And this national organization is responsible for certifying that laboratories' quality system meets standards, nationally made standards, to make sure that the quality system in the laboratory is up to par, and that the work done in that laboratory can be trusted and is of good quality. And our laboratory has been accredited, at least for the DNA part, other sections even longer, since we started DNA typing in 1994, and we're still accredited today.
And you indicated previously in your testimony that you are, in fact, one of the technical leaders of the biology section, correct?
Yes.
All right. And that biology section encompasses the DNA analysis portion of the crime lab's investigative branch, correct?
Correct.
Describe, if you will, and I'm going to force you not to put us to sleep here. Describe, if you will, the modern technology behind DNA analysis. We've all heard of it. Everybody in the jury box, everybody in the courtroom has heard of DNA analysis. Without going through an entire month-long dissertation, can you put into Reader's Digest form, what is the modern technology for DNA analysis?
Today, the modern technology, and not only in forensics, it also overlaps into other fields, other molecular biology fields, is called the STR, which stands for short tandem repeats. That is the technologies that every lab in the country and throughout the world use when they do DNA comparison from crime scene stains to reference samples.
Does the Los Angeles County Crime Lab utilize STR as their method or methodology of doing DNA analysis?
Yes.
Is that what you utilized in doing your DNA analysis in this case?
Yes, I did.
And you're properly trained on STR techniques, correct?
Yes.
Is DNA unique to every individual in the world?
Yes, everybody's DNA is different than anyone else with the exception of identical twins. they would share the exact same DNA between the two twins.
Is DNA constant throughout someone's life? In other words, at birth, do you have one type of DNA, and as you grow and mature through life, does your DNA change or in some way, well, I guess I should just leave it with change?
Well, for forensic purposes, for the DNA that we look at, it actually starts at conception. The DNA that you had at that point of conception is exactly the same from the day you were born, today, and the day you die. That DNA that you have that we look at in a forensic setting never changes, and it is constant through your life.
Now I'm going to ask you kind of to lead us through this a little bit. What are you testing for when you're testing for DNA? You utilize the STR technique. You've already told us about the short tandem repeats. What is it that you're testing for when you're looking at a blood sample or a saliva sample or a swab of some kind? What are you looking for?
Well, to keep it real simple, what we look for are different sites or different locations on the DNA. DNA is a big chemical, or a molecule is another word we use, and there's certain sites on this DNA molecule that we all have. We all have those particular sites, but the beauty of those particular sites is we can have different forms or different types. And one way to think of it is each site is almost like an ABO type. We all have an ABO type, but we might be a different type, an A, B, B, or O. But again, the usefulness of these particular locations is that there's more variation within individuals, so we can tell people apart more and more precisely by looking at these different locations.
How would you describe the sensitivity of DNA testing in modern technology using STR techniques?
It's very sensitive, and what I like to explain to people is if I had a pen and I took my end of my pen and just put a dot on this piece of Post-it paper, and you could see it, but it would be very small, that would probably be enough cells in that particular blood stain to give a DNA profile. So we don't need
very
a lot
small
of
amount
material
needed.
or cells in order to get a profile.
What are the steps that you take, Mr. Renteria, in beginning the process of DNA analysis?
Well, the first step is obviously the processing of the samples, and what we do is we work obviously in the laboratory with gloves, a laboratory coat. We try to take care not to contaminate the samples with our own DNA. And when we're processing the samples, this is before we even start the DNA procedure, we're only opening one sample at a time, documenting it, taking photographs if we need to take photographs, cutting out an area if that's the type of sample it is, putting it into a clean plastic test tube that we use for further testing.
Why is it important? I'm going to interrupt you real quick. Why is it important to only open one sample at a time, for instance?
Well, one thing we want to prevent is contaminating body fluids on a stain from one piece of evidence onto a second piece of evidence. The other risk that we try to prevent, and we do prevent by opening one thing at a time, is if you're dealing with an evidence sample and you have a reference sample you're trying to compare it to, you don't want to be cutting out a portion of the reference sample, be it a blood stain or an oral swab, when you have the evidence exposed and right next to it, because there'd be a chance you can get some material onto the evidence. So we want to prevent that type.
And that brings up a good point, and I guess I kind of glossed over this, and I shouldn't. If you were to take a sample of my blood and go back to the lab, and all you have is that vial from me, all right? If you go back to the lab, does your analysis tell you, oh yeah, that's Alan Jackson? Or do you have to have something to compare it to? That was probably a bad example. Let's say that there's a blood stain on this piece of paper, okay? If you take that blood stain back to the lab and do an analysis on it, does that blood stain tell you, okay, this belongs to Alan Jackson, and I know that because of the particular markers involved in that blood stain? Or do you have to have my reference stain to compare that to tell you this is Alan Jackson?
That's right. We would need your reference sample to compare the DNA profile from the blood stain at the crime scene to your known profile, because we would have just run it and had the two side by side and make the comparison at that point.
A good analogy would be a fingerprint left here. If you just, in a vacuum, take that fingerprint, that doesn't tell you who left it. If you have something to compare it to, that gets you a little further in establishing who left that fingerprint, correct?
Correct.
Okay. In this particular case, you were talking about the steps that you took in testing or typing these samples. Did you ultimately take or make an effort to gather the samples that you've earlier told us about having collected at 1700 Grandview and engaging in a DNA analysis back at the lab with all of those samples?
Yes.
And you talked about just a second ago how you open each sample individually so that there's no cross-contamination. Is that right?
Correct.
Are there certain circumstances, is DNA analysis in 2003 through 2007, is it so sensitive that you can actually get DNA out of a sample by accident? In other words, background DNA or DNA that's sloughed off just in everyday use that wasn't intended to be there?
Yes.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes.
Explain that for us.
Yeah, it is very sensitive, and we do
8 minutes till a wheel spin, ladies and gentlemen.
use the best precautions we can. One easy way to get contamination in an evidence sample or other types of samples that are done is from the analysts themselves working with those tubes. And even though we're wearing gloves, lab coats, masks, and we also use special hoods that try to prevent that, there are occasions when even just some skin cells that get sloughed off, daily from everybody. Or if you're accidentally talking and maybe you didn't have your mask on, if you can get a small amount of saliva that may come out as you're talking, and if that happens to fall in a tube, the technique is sensitive enough that it might pick up that particular profile.
So literally, today's testing is so sensitive that if, for instance, you have an item that you're preparing for analysis, if I was uncovered like I am now with my hands and face uncovered, if I'm just leaning over, talking over that item of evidence, is it conceivable or possible, or even probable, given this technique, that my DNA might be found as background DNA on that particular item?
Overruled. Are you able to answer?
Yes.
You may answer.
Yes, it is possible.
So suffice it to say, extraordinarily sensitive testing today, correct?
Yes.
Are there safeguards that an ASCLD lab accredited laboratory takes, and that your lab took in this particular case, to ensure the accuracy of the results that you got?
Yes.
What do those safeguards include?
Well, I'll mention a few of them. We have certain procedures that we follow every time we do a case. It doesn't matter what case it is. We introduce, when we're extracting DNA, a tube that we call the reagent batch. And basically, it's a clean tube that has nothing in it from the very beginning. And that tube gets processed all the way through the entire procedure till the very end, until we end up with a DNA profile for the case. And what we're supposed to get at the very end for that type of sample, the reagent batch, is nothing. What it's doing, it's testing the chemicals that we use, all the chemicals that went into every sample, because we want to make sure to try to catch if there is contaminating DNA in one of those chemicals. We want to know about it at the very end. We also introduce what's called a quality control sample, and that's a laboratory donor. We take a cheek swab, take a portion of it, that gets extracted from the very beginning and gets DNA typed all the way to the very end, and that sample should give us the correct DNA profile of whoever the donor was in that particular case. That type of control sample tells us that we were able to extract DNA and get enough of it from that sample, and of course we would expect the correct results at the end of that process. And in between the extraction and DNA typing, we also introduce two additional samples. One is called a negative amplification control, and just like the word means negative, that uses all the chemicals we use to perform a process called amplification. At the very end, it should give us no results. Then we introduce a positive amplification control, and again, that would tell us that the amplification went as expected, and we got the correct results at the very end. So in any given case, we're usually dealing with 4 types of controls that help tell us at the very end, can we use these results for the rest of the samples?
And that's before you'll ever sign off on the results?
Yes.
Those 4 controls have to be in place and have to be approved?
Correct.
All right. Now, you've used a word that I guess it bears a little bit of explanation. I don't want to get too deep into the science portion of it, but you talked about amplification. What do you mean by amplification, and does that have anything to do with capillary electrophoresis or whatever those big words that you guys use are? Describe what amplification means for our purposes.
Well, we're talking about the DNA procedure, and that is one part of the entire process. And basically, if I could back up just a little bit,
sure.
There's basically 5 steps. There's the getting the samples ready and putting them into tubes, the processing of the evidence. The second step is extracting DNA. We use certain chemicals and certain techniques that allow us to remove the DNA from a sample, clean it, and to go on to the third step, which is quantifying, determining how much DNA is present, if any, in a particular sample. The fourth step is what we just talked about, is amplification. And we use a technique called PCR, and it stands for polymerase chain reaction. It's a very fancy term, and basically what it is, it's almost like a molecular Xerox machine, where if you have one copy of DNA, you do one PCR cycle, you end up with 2 pieces. You do a second cycle, you end up with 4, so on and so on. And in about 3 hours, 3.5 hours, you end up with millions of copies of that original piece of DNA. So that's the 4th step, amplification. And then the 5th step, or the last step, is
Phil over there
what you had mentioned.
Shaking.
We take that amplified DNA
Per the use.
and we put it through an instrument called the genetic analyzer. And at the very end of that process, or that particular step, we end up with the DNA profile from the evidence, from the controls, from the reference samples. And it's those profiles that we look at as analysts to try to determine if somebody could have donated or not donated a particular evidence sample.
All right, on that note, we're going to take approximately 10 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. We may need to break somewhat early. I want to talk to counsel about that. One of the attorneys has another appearance, and then I want to try to work our schedule out because there's going to be some different breaks today. So keep in mind the admonition. We'll go ahead and be in recess for about 10 minutes.
Interested.
Mr.
Before we do
Rosen,
this,
if you would approach, Mr. Dixon, if
yeah,
you would approach.
Rosen, shut the fuck up. I want to see where we're going next. 44 minutes. Yeah, we got 44 minutes in us. Criminalist Steve Renteria continues his testimony, part 2. So we'll go right on into this, but first we're going to get a wheel spin going. Good luck, everyone. Let's go. Make sure it's tight back here. All right. Good luck, everyone. I'm going to try to hold it as steady as possible. That was a weak wheel spin. That is Sheila. That's Sheila Duffy right there. Sheila Duffy. Congratulations. A t-shirt. Boom. Bada bing, bada boom. Get that thing. It is noon here on the East Coast. Has Sheila Duffy won a wheel in the past? I'm not sure if she has. She may have, actually. She may have already received a shirt, if I'm not mistaken. I'm looking through here as I go down to get ready to add her name on there. Yeah, she did. This is her second shirt. Congratulations, Sheila. Nice. And do I have your first one? Yeah, I need you actually. I need your first information as well. So yeah, Sheila, I need you. I need 2 shirts. I need size, and I need to know where to send those to. Congratulations. putting you in the winner bracket right now, so I don't forget once we get to you. Right now, we're about 4 to 5 weeks out on getting shirts out. I get paid once a month, every the 21st to the 25th from YouTube. That's when I get the funds through, and every time I do that, actually throughout the entire month, I basically just trickle shirts through. But every time I get that lump sum, I try to get a lump amount of people their shirts out. So yeah, I got you here on the winner bracket, and yeah, that was the second will here this morning. And I appreciate everyone for coming through and donating. It's been absolutely incredible. Boom, right there. Got it popping off in the chat. Congratulations, Sheila Duffy. One of the G's that comes through here also. She's been around for a long-ass time. She's fucking awesome. Killing it. Do we have another 44 minutes in us this morning? We're going to keep trucking here a little bit. Part 2 of this testimony. Let's do it. Let's get on through here. Appreciate everyone for coming through here this morning. Let's go. 44 more minutes. Usually like to go right into about 1, so it's perfect.
Relationship with Mr. Pavlik and may have in fact put him up.
Okay, Sheila. No, I might have got that. I might have got that.
He might have noted that there was a relationship between the two of you.
Well, just to correct the record, we have no relationship, personal or private.
Is Sheila going to be in the name? I don't see it.
And I have never spoken to him about going on television or not going on television or having anything to do with that.
Starting a new will right out the gate. That's what the fine folks here are doing. Afton Duffy, I just mixed up those names. Afton Fored, thank you so much. Holy shit, talking a little bit too fast here. Gifting out a membership, and who got that? Son of a bitch. Brooklyn. Mod up Brooklyn. Fucking G around these parts, Brooklyn. Holy shit. Thank you so much, Afton. Appreciate that. Started out a new will. Let's go. Let's go. Hells yeah.
Give me the loot. Give me the loot.
Not messing around, son. Know what I'm saying?
I'm telling you like it is, baby.
Very, very.
Damn.
Remote.
Thank you so much, Afton. Appreciate that.
A very remote relationship at best.
Thank you. All right, let's bring out the jurors and the alternates. All right, the jurors and alternates are now back. Just a couple of quick things, ladies and gentlemen. I made some cryptic comments about our schedule because I wasn't sure whether we were going to have to take some breaks. We do not. Mr. Rosen does have to leave early this morning to go over to federal court. He's under order from a federal judge to appear, but the other attorneys will take care of his absence. And at 1:30, the court has to hear a motion outside your presence. We'll have an extra 15 minutes for lunch, but other than that, we'll be on a normal schedule today. With that in mind, you may resume.
Thank you, Your Honor. We were talking when we, just before the break, we were talking when we last left off about the types of results that you can be expected to get when you do DNA typing. You've talked to us a lot about the types of testing, the amplification process, the genetic analyzer. Tell us what types of results you can get from DNA analysis. In other words, a single profile, multiple profiles, things like that.
Yeah, from evidence samples, because they're evidence samples, we really don't know or expect to get what type of profile at the very, very end. Is it from a single source, just one person, or could it be a mixture of DNA, of maybe different body fluids from two individuals? So at the very end of the process is when most of the time we can tell that. So you can have a evidence sample that gives you a indication that it only came from one person, period. You could also have evidence samples that can give you an indication that it came from two people. And we've had cases in our lab where we've had mixtures up to maybe 5 or 6 people. So it really depends what you see at the very end of the analysis, the DNA profile I'm talking about, that gives you some idea of how many individuals are in that particular state.
And you've already explained the phrase in terms of your scientific expertise of the word donor, or the definition, I should say, of the word donor. How does that play into major donor and minor donor in terms of what you've just talked about, having a mixed profile?
Well, on occasion, if you have a mixed profile, let's say 2 individuals, and we see this a lot in evidence casework, you can have, let's say, a blood stain on a particular item that is maybe 5 drops of blood from one person and just by chance, a second individual maybe dropped 1 drop of blood right on the same area.
Cheney, I just got your email.
Visually is 1 stain. So if we took a swab and swabbed that up, we would have 5 parts of the first person, 5 drops, and 1 part of the second person. So what we would see at the very end of analysis is we would see a strong profile and a weaker profile. First of all, we know it's a mixture because the profile just tells us that. And secondly, in that type of situation, we may be able to say we have 2 people, one of them is a major donor. In other words, most of the DNA is from that person. Then the second person is a minor donor. We have other DNA types there that could have come from that person, but they're just in a smaller amount. That's how we use the term major, minor donor.
Now, you just used an example of 2 separate drops of
Sinead,
blood,
thank
5
you.
drops of blood versus 1 tiny little drop of blood within the same blood stain, for instance. Does it necessarily include blood to find the minor donor?
Thank you so much. Appreciate
Absolutely
that.
not. As I explained before, DNA is contained in all our cells. So you can have a major donor that maybe most of the profiles from semen, from cells within the semen, and then a minor donor could be, let's say, from a victim of a sexual assault. And that could be epithelial cells or cells that line the oral tract or even on skin. We can get a small amount of DNA from the cells from the skin of the victim. So you're absolutely correct. It doesn't have to be all blood or just blood. It could be a mixture of different fluids or different cells.
Nice. Jersey Jen is in the Discord. Hell yeah.
This is Mr. Dixon's favorite pen. I promise I won't move this into evidence, Mr. Dixon. But to utilize this as an example, he uses this pen every day, touches this pen, has his skin on this pen, grabs it with his right hand, his left hand. Say, for instance, I inadvertently cut my finger and dripped a tiny little bit of blood on that pen. Might you expect in that circumstance that you would find a major profile if you took that stain of blood? A major profile for me and a minor profile for Mr. Dixon, given the fact that his skin cells are likely on that pen.
That's correct.
Okay, so it's not just the same type of fluid. This DNA STR testing is so sensitive, it can test for and give results on different types of DNA, i.e. skin cell DNA versus blood cell DNA.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, with all that having educated us on what you do for a living, let's talk about the specific facts of this case. On February 5th, 2003, did you receive a reference blood sample from Mr. Spector?
Yes.
I'm going to read a number into the record, and this is the last time I'm going to read this number into the record, so I make sure we're clear. Was that DNA extracted and amplified and labeled 03 D as in dog 373-101?
If I may refer to my report?
I'd appreciate it if you would.
Yes, that's correct. That would be the DNA sample number for Mr. Spector's reference sample.
And did you also receive a reference blood sample for Lana Clarkson at some point at which it was extracted and amplified and labeled with the number 03 D as in dog 373-100?
Yes.
All right. And those 2 reference samples are what you utilized in the further analysis that you engaged in based on the evidence that was collected at the crime scene, correct?
Correct.
All right. Did you ever receive certain DNA samples that were taken from Ms. Clarkson and provided to you under lab receipt number J321612? And I apologize about the use of all these numbers, but you're sort of in a numbers game. I want to make sure we stay clear about what we're talking about. Did you receive certain DNA samples under that lab receipt number for Ms. Clarkson's left inner wrist, a swab, her left wrist outside swab, and her right wrist swab?
Yes.
Did you prepare samples from those swabs?
Yes, I did.
Specifically, were you able to extract DNA and amplify DNA from those swabs?
Yes.
Were you able to obtain a DNA profile and compare that profile to the known profile of Philip Spector and Lana Clarkson?
Yes, I was.
And what were the results, just specifically with regard to those 3 swabs?
Again, if I may refer to my report.
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm assuming for purposes of the following examination, Mr. Renteria is going to need to refer to his report somewhat substantially. Is that okay?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
The 3 samples you mentioned, the left inner wrist, the left outer wrist, and the right wrist gave DNA profile that was consistent with a mixture of at least 2 individuals. Both Lana Clarkson and Phil Spector are included as possible donors to those mixtures.
And you would expect to find Lana Clarkson's DNA as a possible donor on that very small swab, because in fact it was swabbed from her wrist, correct?
Correct.
And the other possible donor belonged to, or the other possible donor was Philip Spector, is that correct?
That's correct.
Take a look at people's next in order. I want to say people's 97, Your Honor.
97 is the next in order.
This is a 8.5 by 11 document that bears 3 photographs, A, B, and C, that purports to be the slip dress that Lana Clarkson was wearing at the crime scene. Do you recognize this dress?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recognize some of the arrows on this dress?
Yes.
Was this dress received at the crime lab for analysis?
Yes, it was.
Did you examine it?
Yes.
There are both red arrows, and I apologize to the jurors, this is very washed out on this particular overhead, but there appear to be red arrows and green arrows, probably best depicted in photograph C. Can you explain what the red and green arrows are respectively, and what you had to do with this?
Yes. The initial examination of this item was performed by Dr. Lynn Harold. And she is the person in charge of looking at these items of evidence for the purposes of reconstruction. She had placed the red arrows on areas where she was able to identify blood microscopically during her analysis. After she had done her analysis and placed the red arrows in place, I was brought in the presence of Dr. Harold to select a subset of those stains to go on for DNA typing. So only a small amount of stains that she had identified as blood, I took and performed DNA analysis on.
So you performed DNA analysis on certain of the stains, on the blood stains or purported blood stains on this slip dress, correct?
Correct.
The DNA was extracted and amplified?
Yes.
And did you obtain a profile on the DNA blood stains from the slip dress?
Yes.
What were the results?
I looked at a total of three stains from that particular item, and all 3 stains gave a DNA profile that matched the DNA profile from Lana Clarkson.
Did you also inspect Lana Clarkson's jacket?
Yes.
Take a look at what's, actually I'm going to mark it now, people's next in order, people's 98. It appears to be an 8.5 by 11 document. It's being shown on the overhead, and it bears 2 photographs, A and B. Do you recognize these 2 photographs?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize them?
They look to be the bloodstained jacket that Lana Clarkson was wearing. It's actually got an empty space down the middle because the coroner's office, once the contamination occurred, cut the jacket from the back all the way from the top to the bottom. So now we have a right half and a left half, and that's why you see that seam in the middle.
Did you sample any portion from that jacket?
Yes, I did. From the right side of the jacket on the sleeve, I selected 1 stain, and that particular blood stain, the DNA profile obtained from that matched the DNA profile from Lana Clarkson.
And that was a single donor match profile, correct?
Yes.
take a look at what's been previously marked as People's 65, if you would, please. Tell me if you recognize those photographs, those 6 photographs.
Yes, I did.
How do you recognize them?
Those are photographs that were taken at our photo lab, and it also has the DR number, or case file number for the Sheriff's Department, and the laboratory receipt number, which is the J number for the gun that was found underneath the legs of Lana Clarkson.
And that was J number 309759, correct?
Correct.
When you received this gun, by the way, when did you receive the gun into the crime lab?
If I may refer to my notes.
Please.
I apologize. I'm going to have to pull out the one part of the case file to get that date.
If, with the
That's
court's
fine.
permission,
That's
whatever that date is.
I received the gun directly from investigators Katz and Lillienfield on February 5th, 2003.
Was that gun handled by you before it was photographed in these photographs?
Yes.
How so?
Well, after I received the gun from the detectives in the lab, I did I had it in my work area until the exact date was February 13th, 2003. That's when I opened up the evidence box that contained the gun. And I noticed that
Megan,
the
get in
gun,
here.
on the very front sight of the gun, the rear portion of the front sight had some white material that seemed to be embedded in the sight structure itself. At that point, I didn't do any further analysis on the gun. I wanted to get Dr. Harold's, to get her attention, to have her just view it quickly. Then at that point, we decided that we would have it photographed in a studio. We have a photo studio in our laboratory to get some studio photographs of the gun. Then after that point, it would eventually be released to Dr. Harold. So she could look at the gun, collect samples, and then for possible reconstruction.
When you received the gun on the 5th, you did not manipulate it until you didn't touch it at all until the 13th when you opened the box, correct?
That's right. It was in a sealed gun box is what we call it, and I did not break the seal, did not open it until February 13th.
We didn't break the seal. It was always closed.
You did open it. Did you, in addition to noticing this white material embedded or pulverized into the front sight, did you also notice what appeared to be dried blood on the gun as well?
Yes, on various surfaces, right side, left side, the handle, the barrel, there was obvious blood staining that was on the gun.
Did you move or manipulate that blood staining at all?
No.
As a matter of fact, are you trained not to do that?
If yes, the answer is yes. And if there's a need for reconstruction, sometimes the appearance of the blood, the type of blood stain that it is, could be important. So we would not want to remove it in this particular case until Dr. Harold had a time to look at it.
All right, and time to photograph it.
Correct.
And these studio photographs reflect accurately the state that the gun was in when you received it, correct?
Yes.
All right. Let me ask you this, since we're on the issue of the gun, and you've already talked to us about the extensive luminol tests that you did inside the foyer area. Let me pose an example or a hypothetical or a question to you. If the gun had wet blood on it, in other words, fresh, wet blood on it, and was on the carpet, and was either kicked around or moved onto the carpet, wiped onto the carpet, after that gun was removed and you did your luminol, would you expect that area of the carpet to luminesce with that wiped blood?
Yeah, in your hypothetical, the blood is still wet.
Yes.
On the gun being kicked around, and yeah, I would expect to see a luminol reaction that next day just from the trace amount of blood that would have moved off the gun because it would be in a wet form onto the fibers of the carpet.
Did you see any suggestion, based on your luminol tests, that the gun had been wiped onto the carpet or the blood had been transferred onto the carpet in that wiping form that you just talked about?
No.
When was the gun ultimately, after it was photographed, when was it returned to you for analysis?
The next day, February 14th.
No way I couldn't just grab that microphone and just start, ain't nothing but a hound dog. Straight in the
February
elbows.
13th is when I
No way.
opened the gun
Couldn't
box
control
and
it.
noticed,
Uncontrollable
the
urge.
I sent it to the
Judge
photo
Stoward would
studio
be
on
like,
that
"What
same
is
day,
happening here,
and
sir?"
it was returned to me the very next day on February 14th, and it went back into my possession.
At some point, were you able to perform an analysis or take samples from that gun in different places, specifically concentrating on the obvious red stains?
Yes.
Describe what samples you were taking from the gun.
Well, again, the gun was given to Lynn Harold before I even did any sampling, and in the presence of Dr. Harold in her work area, since she had possession of the gun at that point, and she had done a microscopic exam and examination of the different surfaces of the gun, we kind of both worked together to decide which areas that had blood on it based on Dr. Harold's microscopic exam, which areas we would try to collect samples from to do further DNA testing on. And on that particular day, we collected a total of 7 different areas that contained blood for DNA testing.
And it was that blood that you were concentrating on in order to collect it for later DNA testing?
Yes.
In other words, obvious areas of the gun that had red staining or blood staining on it, you wanted to collect that blood to find out whose blood appeared on the gun, correct?
Correct.
All right. I'm just going to walk through those 7 areas, if you don't mind, so we can get through this relatively quickly. Was the sight groove one of those areas?
Yes.
The medallion on the right side grip?
Forgot to get old Phil back up
Impressions
here.
on the left
Get Fro
side
Phil
of the barrel,
back.
in other words, the pre-stamped areas, Cobra and 38 Special?
Yes.
The outside of the barrel about 1 centimeter from the muzzle end of the gun?
Yes.
The left side wood grip with what appeared to be blood on it?
That's correct.
The right side gun cylinder flute with the expended casing at the 12 o'clock position, is that correct?
Yes.
And the inside of the gun barrel just inside the muzzle, correct?
Correct.
All right. All of those areas were sampled in order to determine whether or not the blood in that area, or who the blood profile belonged to in those areas, correct?
Correct.
And what were your findings?
Again, if I may refer to my report.
Certainly.
Certainly.
2 of those
Get that
items,
report, dude. Get that report out.
It was we called it item 1G. G as in George, which was the
G is a gangster.
right medallion portion of the gun. Gave DNA. However, the amount of DNA on that particular sample was insufficient to do DNA profiling on. So all I am able to say is that there's some DNA there, but there wasn't enough to proceed further. So basically, for that sample, the test would have stopped at that point.
So the amount of blood seen inside that medallion and the recesses of that medallion was simply too small to do an adequate DNA test on?
That's correct.
Okay.
And then the same was true for item 1H, as in Henry, which were the impressions on the gun barrel. Same situation. There was DNA there, but not enough.
Okay, so the what appeared to be blood inside the grooves of that very small C, O, and B, or that area, when you sampled it, you simply could not get enough on the sample to DNA test it?
Correct.
Okay. What about the area of the sight groove?
The sight groove gave a DNA profile that matched the DNA profile from Lana Clarkson.
What about the outside of the barrel that you described as being about 1 centimeter from the muzzle?
That DNA profile from that sample matched the DNA profile from Lana Clarkson.
How about the left side of the wood grip?
That particular sample gave a major profile that matched the DNA profile from Lana Clarkson. The only indication that there's some minor DNA present, and I don't know what the source would be, is there's one particular DNA marker that we looked at it's called amylogenin, and it's basically a sex identifying marker. In this particular sample, I had a small amount of activity, what's called a Y type. And males have an XY, females have two X's or just an X is what you see. In this sample, I saw a large amount of X that would have come obviously from the victim in this case, then just a small amount of DNA that indicated there was some male DNA present, but only the Y. No other types came up.
What about the right side of the gun cylinder?
That was a single source profile that matched the DNA profile from Lana Clarkson.
And what about the blood that was on the inside of the gun barrel, just inside the muzzle?
Same as previous, that matched the DNA profile from Lana Clarkson.
I'd like to move to what's been previously marked as People's 66, if we could. And while that's coming up on the overhead, did you also receive ammunition that came from the Colt Cobra?
Yes.
And
there was Cutler.
were you able to collect samples from that ammunition?
Yes.
What was your purpose in, well, what samples did you collect and what purpose? And for what purpose?
The samples I collected for the live rounds that you see in that picture, which would be the 5 rounds on the right, those are unexpended cartridges. In other words, those bullets haven't been fired, so they're intact. And what I collected was I took a swab, actually 2 swabs, and I swabbed the exposed bullet portion that included the lead, which is at the very tip, and the copper jacket that's here. I took extra precaution to not swab or to contaminate any of the cartridge case, and that's the silver part below here. And the reason I did that, again, Dr. Harold and I did this together side by side, was we knew that the rounds or the cases were going to go to latent prints for fingerprint development. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't smear or ruin any possible fingerprints where you would normally touch those cartridges, which would be the case itself. So I only sampled the bullet part of those live rounds.
Yeah, go for 3 minutes. I'm going to borrow this real quick, and I'll bring it right back. So if there was a suggestion, Mr. Renteria, that any DNA profile came from this area, the base or the bottom of the cartridges, that would be incorrect. Is that right? You did not test these areas down here for any DNA. Is that right?
That's right.
You limited your testing to the tips of each bullet where there was identifiable blood. Is that right?
That's correct.
I'm going to show you, before we get any further, I'm going to show you another photograph that's of an actual exemplar gun, not the actual gun in this case, but an exemplar 38 Colt Cobra. People's next in order, Your Honor, would be 98. Thank you.
98. I don't even think we're at the halfway point of this trial. This is what's wild.
Do you see the gun that appears to be facing the camera in People's 98?
Yes.
Do you see these areas of exposed, or these exposed areas that I'm pointing to right here, these 4 exposed areas?
Yes.
What are those?
That would be the exposed portion of the bullet from a live cartridge.
Do those appear to be hollow point bullets?
Yes.
Do those appear to be consistent with the types of bullets that you analyzed in this case?
Yes.
All right. And understanding that this is an example, this is not the actual gun or the bullets, but this is an example, does this photograph explain why you were interested in the leading edge of those exposed bullets?
Yes, it does.
Why?
Well, we wanted, both Dr. Harold and I...
not even halfway.
Looking for
Still be a while till we're halfway out. It's like 230 some parts were on part like 80.
Exposed portion of
3 or 4.
The bullets that were actually still in
This
the
was half of
cylinder
230.
when the gun was actually found. So that's the reason we just focused on the exposed bullet part and not the case or the very bottom part.
So
of the
115 will be at halfway. So we're approaching halfway.
Your Honor, a matter of
Not there yet,
housekeeping,
which
Mr.
is
Dixon
wild
is
to
on
think
top of
about,
this, and I wasn't.
actually.
The jacket was 98. This should have been 99 with the court's permission. I apologize.
Sorry, I did indeed miss that was marked, so we'll take care of that. Thank you.
Oh, it's my fault. All right, for the record, so that the record is clear, what we've been talking about during your explanation, Mr. Renteria, is people's 99 for identification, which is an example of a gun facing the camera, correct?
Yes.
Loaded with what appear to be hollow point bullets, correct?
Yes.
All right. Sudi, can we go back? Okay. Now we're back looking at what's been previously marked as people's 66. You indicated that you did take swabs from the tip or leading edge of those 5 live rounds, correct?
Yes.
Were you able to get DNA such that you could extract it and amplify it?
Yes, I was.
Were you able to obtain any profiles and compare those profiles or that profile to the known exemplars of Lana Clarkson and Philip Spector?
Yes.
What were the results?
The DNA profile I obtained from that sample, and again, all 5 cartridges were sampled because it was a very small area and a very small amount of blood that Dr. Harold was able to identify microscopically. All 5 of them were sampled onto the same swabs. Then those 2 swabs were extracted together. And this is what we do a lot when we have a very small type of sample where we need to use all of it if we are going to get results. So that's what I analyzed. And the major profile from that sample, 1C, as in Charlie, is how we identified it, was consistent or matched the DNA profile from Lana Clarkson. There was one exception, and that's why I said the major profile. There was one DNA type at one DNA marker that was foreign to Lana Clarkson and also foreign to Phil Spector in this case. So it was one type at one marker in this particular sample.
All right, so it appeared that there was some background DNA, very, very weak, that may have or did belong to somebody other than Lana Clarkson or Phil Spector.
Yes.
I believe. Could you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, like we described earlier, background DNA would be, if I sampled this area of the witness stand, there may be DNA on the surface that we would call background DNA, just from people talking in this general area. And if there was a blood stain that came after that, and I did analysis, got let's say a major profile from whoever the blood donor was, there's a chance I could pick up some background DNA that was there originally before the blood was deposited.
One of the things that I haven't asked you, and I think the numbers are so big that it's hard for us to kind of conceive of them, but I should go ahead and ask you, based on these profiles, in your business, is there a frequency of occurrence estimate that's often done to determine how rare that particular DNA is?
Yes.
If that's a safe way to say that.
Yeah, that's an adequate way to say it, for us to determine how rare or how common a particular DNA profile is in the general population.
Right.
We have a calculation that's called a frequency of occurrence.
And the frequency of occurrence estimate for Ms. Clarkson, and let's go back to, for instance, you indicated that all the blood that you sampled on the gun was consistent with Ms. Clarkson's. Is that correct?
Yes.
Except for the portions that were too small to amplify, is that right?
That's correct.
And what was the frequency of occurrence estimate for Ms. Clarkson's major DNA profile?
Again, if I may refer to my notes. Yes. For the gun, I was able to get, where we did get results, I was able to get a full DNA profile. And for Ms. Clarkson, those particular blood stains, the frequency of occurrence would be 1 out of 114 quadrillion with a Q. A quadrillion is a very big number. It's basically 1 with 15 zeros after it. And as a comparison, a billion would be 1 with 9 zeros after it. So it's quite larger than a billion, and the word we use for that number is a quadrillion.
Gonna keep me a quadrillionaire, son. Come at me. Huh? Come at me.
With regard to and was that the same frequency of
It's a
occurrence
large
estimate that
number.
you got from the major profile concerning the DNA from the tips of the bullets?
Yes.
Take a look at what's been previously marked as People's 82 for identification. Tell me if you recognize one or more of the items depicted here, specifically item C, as in Charlie. I'm sorry, photograph C. I should be more specific.
Get the hell out of here,
brandy snifter.
Spector, so I can see, bud.
Yes, that's an item that was collected by one of the investigators at the crime scene. I did not collect that myself. It was collected by them and then eventually submitted to the crime lab
Right,
for
Michelle.
analysis, which I
How close
performed
am I?
on that particular item.
And let's go ahead and, you've talked us through the extraction and amplification process. I just kind of want to get down to the brass tacks as we walk through the rest of these items. And if I say something incorrectly or ask an inartful question, I'll rely on you to fix this. With regard to that brandy snifter, were you able to get DNA off that brandy snifter?
Yes.
And were you able to come up with any results?
Yes.
What were the results?
If I may again refer to my report. I apologize, there's a lot of items here. I just want to make sure I get them all straight.
No problem.
Yeah, that particular item, we gave an item number 15, which is the brandy snifter. And that gave a mixed profile, consistent with 2 individuals, and both Lana Clarkson and Phil Spector are included as possible donors to that particular mixed profile.
Were you able to determine who the major donor is versus the minor donor?
Yes, I believe I was. In that particular sample, the major donor was Phil Spector in that particular case.
You don't say.
And the minor donor, Lana Clarkson.
That's correct.
Loves his booze.
Take a look at what's been previously marked as People's 84 for identification. Tell me if you recognize that item. Again, depicted in A with the red square and enlarged in photograph B of People's 84, the brandy snifter in the bathroom.
Yes, that was another brandy snifter that was collected by the investigators from the same bathroom where we talked about the other items of evidence.
Including the bloody rag or diaper.
That's correct.
Did you receive that glass brandy snifter at the lab?
Yes.
Did you collect DNA samples from that glass brandy snifter?
Yes, I did.
Were you able to get a profile?
Yes.
And what were the results?
Basically the same results as I previously described for the other glass. It was consistent with 2 DNA donors. Both Lana Clarkson and Phil Spector are consistent with being the contributors. And again, for this particular sample, Phil Spector was the major donor on that particular item.
And I'm going to ask to go back one more time to what's been previously marked as People's 82 and ask you about a ginger ale bottle. While Sudi is putting that on the overhead, did you also receive a ginger ale bottle at the lab?
Yes, I did.
Did you see that at the crime scene?
Yes.
And that was in the living room?
That's correct.
Next to the other brandy snifter, correct?
Correct.
Were you able to collect DNA from the ginger ale bottle?
Yes, I was.
And what, in fact, were the results of that DNA analysis?
Again, let me refer to my report. That item, the ginger ale bottle, was given an item number of 17. It was also consistent with a mixture of at least 2 individuals. Both Lana Clarkson and Phil Spector are possible contributors to that mixture.
Who was the major donor?
In that particular case, I was not able to determine a major or minor. All I was able to do is with the types I detected on that mixture, both Phil Spector and Lana Clarkson could be the 2 contributors that were on that item.
Going back to an exhibit that we've earlier looked at, People's 85, I want to ask you about the door. You've already told us about having swabbed the latch bolt assembly as well as the knob. Now I want to talk about the analysis that you engaged in. Were you able to obtain any profiles from the blood that you swabbed off the latch bolt and or the doorknob inside?
Yes, I was.
Can you tell us about that, please? What were the results?
On both the items, 20A,
It's the freaking
which was the
worst.
latch bolt, and 20B, which was the actual doorknob, was consistent with a mixture of 2 individuals.
Not good.
And in both cases, Lana Clarkson was the major
Like
donor.
someone spilled
on those
wine
particular samples.
everywhere.
And those samples were specifically samples of blood,
Red
correct?
wine,
Correct.
And I should
all
go
over the
back
place.
because I may have glossed over this a little bit and left somebody confused. With regard to the 2 brandy snifters and the ginger ale bottle, you did not see visible blood on those items, correct?
No.
The DNA analysis that you engaged in was likely skin cell transfer, for lack of a better word, onto those items?
Well, actually, those particular items, and items like that, what we would focus on, because they had gone through the latent print examination before I received them, is we were focusing on the area of each of those items where lips would actually touch the surface, so the drinking part.
I see.
So my opinion is, just because it's common sense, is that DNA that I got is most likely from cells in the lip area of the individuals who were drinking from those items.
All right. With regard to the, we've gone through so many of these, I simply can't remember, Mr. Renteria. Did I ask you about the results from the latch bolt and the doorknob yet?
No.
Okay. How about if I ask you that?
Okay. Both items, again, consistent with a mixture of 2 people. The major was Lana Clarkson. And on 20A, the latch bolt, the minor contributor is consistent with originating from Phil Spector. And for 20B, the minor alleles detected in that sample, again, are consistent with originating from Phil Spector, with one exception. At one DNA marker, there was a DNA type that Phil Spector nor Lana Clarkson have in their reference sample. So it would have been from somebody else. It wasn't a good quality DNA type for us to say absolutely it's there. And when that happens, we use the term inconclusive. It could be there, I'm not sure, but there's enough evidence to just put it in the report so people could see there's a possibility there's another allele or type that could have come from somebody else.
All right. And that could have been there for, you don't time these items, correct? In other words, there's no time frame for DNA to just evaporate, correct?
Correct.
All right. So that could have been left there by a maid or another friend or whatever in that foyer area at some point, not even relevant to February 3rd, 2003. Am I correct?
That's possible, yes.
Okay. Let's go to tab 61. I believe we've previously marked this for identification as People's 95. Take a look at this handrail, and we've talked about your collection of the handrail, of the blood from the handrail. Now I want to talk about your analysis real quick. Were you able to get a DNA profile from the blood transferred onto that handrail?
Yes.
And what were the results? What were your findings?
That DNA profile matched the DNA profile from Lana Clarkson.
And she was the sole donor?
Yes.
And she was the only major contributor?
She's the only contributor.
Yeah, I guess that does make sense, doesn't it? It's been a long morning. All right, let's move to what's been previously marked as People's 83.
Heard about the time
I want to draw your attention back to the eyelashes that you indicated were recovered at the scene inside that foyer bathroom area, and ask you about those eyelashes. same question, were you able to obtain any DNA profiles from those eyelashes?
Again, if I may refer my notes.
Please, with the court's permission.
Yes.
Yes, I was able to extract enough DNA to do a DNA typing, and the types are consistent with a mixture of 2 individuals on the eyelashes. They were sampled onto one swab, again, because it's a small item. We weren't sure how much material was there. I didn't see any visual blood on those items, so I was going more for any cells that might be present on those false eyelashes. So they were consistent with 2 individuals, both Lana Clarkson and Phil Spector are consistent with being the donors of that particular mixture.
Were you able to make a determination as to who the major donor versus the minor donor was?
Yes, in that particular sample, Lana Clarkson was consistent with being the major donor to that mixture.
All right, on that note, we will take our recess. Ladies and gentlemen, we will come back this afternoon. I have a motion to hear at 1:30, so for your purposes, 1:45, and the witness is instructed to return at 1:45. Counsel will be back at 1:30 this afternoon. Thank you.
What a morning here in the church. Thank you, Judge Dowhart. Appreciate it, sir. Per the usual. Where are we going Tuesday night? Got a 20-minute one. We'll start with that Tuesday. I was thinking about it there. The defense files a motion for a mistrial. Of course they do. We'll see how that plays out starting Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you show up. We're halfway. No, not halfway. We've started another will. Got through 2 wills here this morning. Absolutely incredible. Hope everyone's having a great Labor Day weekend. Hope if anybody that's off tomorrow, fucking dope. I am. I'm super pumped. Keep an eye out for the possibility tomorrow of a Idaho 4 Brian Koberger stream. It's not 100%. I'm going to see how tomorrow plays out, but I do want to do that. It was Thursday's show that was supposed to happen. And it did not happen because, as you can see right now, I'm on a different camera, and I've got to figure this out as well. I've got a few different things that I'm working on. But yeah, thank you all so much for being here. Anybody still in the chat that has a minute after this, if you guys could do me a favor, I have a second channel that is a wrestling channel, but I tell stories over there. I make videos about crazy stories, usually backstage stuff, and I have a new one that I just dropped yesterday morning at 8, and it's doing rather well, actually. It hit 6K, about to hit 7K within about a 24-hour period, and now a little bit more than that at this point, about to hit 1 p.m. on a Sunday. But if you guys could go to that, hit a like on that video, check it out, give it a watch as well, please. Just let it play through even if you don't actually watch it, but give it a watch. I tell a story. Those docu-style videos that I do are I feel like could suck anybody in, quite frankly. But yeah, if you can do that, I appreciate it. Tuesday night, you will see me again, Murder Church coming at you, episode 33, Phil Spector trials continuing, 8 p.m. And yeah, we'll see what's going on. Hopefully I will have my freaking camera back in check though. But new people coming through. Nay, welcome in here. Yeah, I had a bunch of new people today. I love it. New members coming in here. Welcome. Anybody in Patreon, check out, keep an eye out because you're going to be getting a lot of cool stuff here soon. But members also keep an eye out because you're going to be getting some stuff as well. Lots of cool, awesome stuff happening here in the Buzz Nation, and I couldn't be happier about it. You guys fucking rule. And yeah, have a great rest of your day. Check out that video. Do it. Later.